Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Marvel. Everything around me can mutate. Wanda has mutated too. Chapter 81. After Gul'dan gave an order. Throughout the battlefield, millions of Chitauri fighters who had been resurrected roared frantically. At the moment, they had completely obeyed Gul'dan. Even if he was fighting against his own clan, there was no hesitation at all. Countless resurrected fighters stood on the flight machine again. Dozens of huge behemoth Leviathan also split into a neat queue. And Gul'dan slowly walked to the body of a Leviathan beast in front of him. After standing on Leviathan, he stomped lightly. A large amount of evil energy emerged from his body, rushing into the body of Leviathan under his feet. After receiving the fell energy bestowed by Gul'dan, the body of this Leviathan monster instantly changed dramatically. Its body began to grow some green tentacles, spreading to the entire body surface, as if to add another layer of armor to this Leviathan beast. Immediately afterwards, sharp bone spurs began to grow constantly on its body, and its appearance became more healed. Till the end, those green tentacles gradually condensed on Leviathan's back except for a dark green throne. Gul'dan slowly sat on it. The staff in his hand waved again. The whole army is dispatched. The fell army began to march towards the portal. This scene completely frightened Loki. This is a long-planned war of aggression. The aggressor is himself, Chitauri. However, in the current situation, it seems that the aggressor and the aggressor have changed their identities. The Chitauri army turned out to be the invaded party. And the aggressor, it seems there is only one person. There is only one monster. Loki slowly slumped on the roof of the Stark Industrial Building. At this moment, through the soul scepter in his hand, he suddenly received a voice. Loki is familiar with this voice. It's the voice of Chitauri's leader. Loki, ask for your blessings, we are going to close the portal. Hearing the words of Chief Chitauri, Loki hurriedly stood up. The expression on his face changed. It looks like angrily, but it's a bit desperate. In the entire universe, Chitauri is extremely powerful, and the Chitauri, who burned and looted everywhere, flinched. They are actually scared. Loki could hear the panic in that voice. In the face of one person, the entire Chitauri race, the tens of millions of Chitauri army, actually flinched. Loki's heart is dead. Slowly, he squatted on the ground again. Although he could order Chitauri soldiers, he could not order Chitauri's leader at all. They are just a partnership. Had it not been for that powerful presence, Chitauri wouldn't even cooperate with him. Loki is completely desperate. At this moment, the portal in the sky started to shrink slowly. Although Tesseract is on this side of the Earth. However, on the other side of the portal, there is also a positioning device that corresponds to Roar. Obviously, Chitauri destroyed the positioning device. As a result, Tesseract could not find the location of Chitauri. Therefore, the portal will slowly close. But, the speed at which the portal closed was still too slow. At this moment, almost half of Gul'dan's army rushed in. Even people on this side of the Earth can see that there has been a terrible exchange of fire on the portal side. And at the moment, the portal has become smaller and smaller. Gul'dan, who was standing behind the slave army, seemed to realize something. If this portal is completely closed, then my mission seems impossible to complete. He slowly stood up from the throne on the back of his mount. The mission must be accomplished. This is why he came to this world. A fierce green light burst out in Gul'dan's eyes. The skeleton staff in his hand was raised again. A green ray suddenly shot out from his staff, and quickly penetrated behind the portal that was about to disappear. At this moment, the portal was finally completely closed. Gul'dan, tens of thousands of servants have been left on the Earth. But, Gul'dan did not panic. There seemed to be a weird smile at the corner of his mouth. Just now, he has located the world over the portal. Distance, for a powerful fell warlock, is not a key factor. Even crossing no close range is quite simple for a powerful fell warlock like Gul'dan. With a soft drink, the remaining legion of slaves began to turn around and walked towards the dark gate where Gul'dan appeared. The dark gate still stands quietly on the ground in New York City. But, the other side of the dark portal has become Chitauri's territory. Under the command of Gul'dan, tens of thousands of fell Chitauri soldiers rushed into the dark gate that was glowing green. Till the end, on the entire battlefield, there was no shadow of Chitauri and Gul'dan's servant army. Only Gul'dan was left, and slowly came to the front of the dark portal. But he walked in no hurry. Instead, he stood up from his throne and looked around. Once again, he took a deep look at this vibrant land. In his heart, he was still thinking about how to turn this world into his evil territory. When Gul'dan's sight came to the holy place location in New York, his gaze suddenly paused for a while. It seems that he saw something interesting to him. In Gul'dan's eyes, two strong green rays suddenly burst out. On the roof of the holy place building in New York. Having been following Gul'dan's supreme magician Ancient One, suddenly my heart trembled slightly. At the beginning, Ancient One wanted to go to Gul'dan for a while. But later, after seeing Gul'dan's strange ability, there was no war in her heart. In other words, she was a little scared in her heart. It's not that Ancient One is afraid to beat Gul'dan. Rather, she found that the evil energy in Gul'dan was too terrifying. Ancient One already possesses the power of darkness. She is resisting the erosion of darkness all the time. If she accidentally gets infected with that kind of evil energy, then she guesses that she will be infested by evil in an instant. In that case, it will be troublesome. It is better to plunge into the darkness than to plunge into evil. And at the moment, just when two green lights appeared in Gul'dan's eyes, Ancient One suddenly felt that his soul was marked by something. Ancient One is terrified. She hurriedly controlled her soul and got out of her body. Then, looked down, suddenly startled. On the chest of his soul, a faint green rune appeared. Ancient One's soul hurriedly reached into his chest with a hand. But I can't touch anything. That green rune seemed to grow on his own soul. Oh my, what is this? Ancient One's face suddenly became extremely ugly. I didn't want to mess with that monster, but that monster suddenly shot myself. Although this green rune seems to have no problem now, Ancient One does not know the usefulness of this rune. Facing the unknown, Ancient One has nothing to do. Her soul hurriedly returned to her body. Ancient One's body rose into the air. No hesitation. Run quickly in the direction of Gul'dan. And, in the process of advancing, a wave of hand opened the mirror space in an instant. Although she was a little afraid of Gul'dan in her heart, she must figure out what this monster had put in her soul. Otherwise, I will have trouble sleeping and eating. Ancient One's mirror space ability is one of her best skills. The moment the mirror space was opened, it crossed a distance of several thousand meters and directly enveloped Gul'dan. Happy in Ancient One's heart. Now that you have entered your own mirror space, it will be easier. In the mirror space, one's own strength will improve a lot. And the other party will be restrained. But when Ancient One looked at Gul'dan again, suddenly saw it, Gul'dan, who was pulled into the mirror space by Ancient One, didn't even have a hint of surprise on his face. His face remained calm. There was even a weird smile at the corner of his mouth. Something's wrong. Ancient One suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Gul'dan was actually very interested in this strange-looking human woman. He can feel some weird power in Ancient One's body. Those powers have many similarities with the evil energies in their own body. But Gul'dan also perceived that he didn't seem to have much time in this world. Moreover, his mission has not yet been completed. In any case, you must complete your mission. Gul'dan grinned lightly, showing a smile that was uglier than crying. He had planted a mark on that woman just now. If there is time, he will come to this world again. Definitely, coming again will never be because of this woman alone. Also because there are too many lonely souls in this world and they need him to guide the way. In this world, he can build a huge army of Death Knights. Gul'dan smiled softly and waved his hand in front of him. A huge amounts of green fell sickle appeared suddenly. Taste. The mirror space, 743, was crushed in an instant. Ancient One was shocked. The figure who had rushed towards Gul'dan also hurriedly stopped. The mirror space is broken. Ancient One has never seen such a powerful attack. Even if you try your best to attack, it is impossible to break the mirror space. And that monster, with just a wave of his hand, directly shattered the mirror space that he was proud of. Ancient One's heart was filled with fear again. She stopped. Never move one more. And at the moment, Gul'dan seemed to have done a trivial thing. The staff in his hand gently tapped the fell Leviathan beast at his feet. The huge fell Leviathan slowly passed through the dark portal. Until the fell Leviathan beast's body all disappeared in the dark portal, that huge amounts of dark portal seemed to have finally completed its mission and slowly sank toward the ground. Only a ruin was left. Gul'dan, the fell warlock who is well known throughout World of Warcraft, finally left the Marvel world. And this world finally saw for the first time the evil power that was beyond the ability system of this world. But, although the people in the Marvel world can't see Gul'dan anymore. However, Lin Yu can still. On the computer screen in the grocery store, Gul'dan's figure is still displayed. At the moment, Gul'dan was riding a fell Leviathan beast, slowly appearing from a huge amounts of dark portal. And his army of servants is already waiting in the sky. In addition to the resurrected Chitauri soldiers, 50 super warriors who were transformed by fell energy also stood quietly on the backs of other Leviathan behemoths. After being transformed by the evil energy, they could completely survive in the void. As for Gul'dan, let alone more. As soon as he arrived in the space where Chitauri was, he immediately waved his skeleton staff. The huge army of slaves began to attack Chitauri headquarters. At the moment, Chitauri's huge mothership, the current leader of Chitauri, the other, is watching the battle ahead in horror. He was stunned. How did the original war of aggression become like this? How could there be such a powerful existence on Earth? The news I got clearly was that the Earth was very weak, and it was impossible to resist my army. But I didn't expect to encounter such a horrible existence. He is just a person, and he is helpless by thousands of troops. What made Chitauri leader the other stunned was that the other party even caught up after closing the portal. And the battle ahead is really weird. The opponent was able to resurrect the dead soldiers of his own infinitely. Then it becomes the opponent's power. Under the circumstances, oneself will definitely be wiped out. Cannot be like this. The other has no other way. He can only tell this to his master. After a few minutes, on a display of the Chitauri mothership, a blurred figure finally appeared. His appearance seems to be due to the distance too far, and some are not clear. But his voice was passed over clearly. What's the matter? That voice was extremely majestic. Even at the distance of the endless starry sky, Chief Chitauri still looked a little scared. Master, I want to ask you for help. A monster appeared on that earth. He resisted my army alone, and now he has killed my lair. Chitauri leader the other directly faced the blurry figure on the screen. Kneeled down. His voice trembled slightly. I don't know if he is afraid of his master or the monster chasing from the earth. But, obviously Chitauri's status is not high in front of that person. A bunch of rubbish, even a small earth can't be beaten down, what use do I want you to do? The vague figure on the screen spoke again. However, the tone shown in the words made the other like an ice seller. Master, we are your most central servants, we must save us. The other pleaded again. In front of the monster on Earth, his army fell too fast. He didn't even have time to escape. Chitauri's mothership is huge, and if you want to escape here, you won't be able to leave it in a short while. But the battle outside has already burned eyebrows. But on the screen, the blurry figure no longer has a sound. Even the entire screen is black. Chief Chitauri wanted to cry without tears. Attacking the earth was originally the command of the master. And now, it failed, and it was abandoned by the owner. Called the most miserable servant in history. Grocery store. When the Chitauri mothership on the computer screen turned into a flame and completely turned into rubble. In Lin Yu's mind, the system reminder finally sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for his in-depth participation in the Battle of New York, the core story of Marvel, with 100% participation and 5 points for the follow-up story. Ding! The 5th level summoned creature, Fell Warlock Gul'dan, the duration has ended, return to the original world. The computer screen in front of Lin Yu returned to its original state again. On the screen, the online game Lin Yu played before, World of Warcraft, appeared again. And the role of Lin Yu is still in the copy. Those teammates have not left yet. At the moment, by everyone's side, Gul'dan, the previously disappeared boss, suddenly appeared. Several players in the dungeon were shocked. At this moment, someone typed in the chat box and said, "You may not believe it, I just saw Gul'dan in the news." I don't believe it, I saw it too. Is that monster Gul'dan? I seem to see it too. What age is it? The information on the internet is still believed, those pictures are clearly P. Yeah, are you all stupid? Gul'dan is just a game boss, how could he go to New York? Are you all paying attention to the monster that looks like Gul'dan, and not paying attention to those terrifying alien invasions? New York is all messed up. My home is in New York, but fortunately it is in the suburbs, but we can hear the audible exchange of fire. What kind of aliens are those TV stations made up to attract traffic? In the chat box, the players who haven't left the game have started to discuss it one by one. These players come from all over the world. But for such a big incident of alien invasion, they all learned about it through the internet. At the same time, I also saw the terrifying fell warlock Gul'dan on many online pictures. But, at that time, the center of New York was almost in ruins. Those who have time to take pictures are all far away. So the photos taken are very blurry. It seems that the photo is a bit fake. Few people believed in Gul'dan's appearance. After all, most of the information on the internet today is fake. Only Lin Yu was indifferent to the rumors they said. What are you talking about? The last boss is up, and I can't fight anymore. Lin Yu crackled and typed on the computer. In online games, under Lin Yu's call, the players once again attacked Gul'dan, the final boss of the dungeon. Although the Battle of New York was indeed a major event, the whole world is talking about this matter on the internet. But, in fact, for those outside of New York, life has not been affected at all. After all, those Chitauri on the earth today have not left New York City at all. Didn't even go out in Manhattan. Gul'dan's strength is really terrifying. The soldiers who were resurrected by his fell energy completely blocked the entire Chitauri Legion near the portal. So, these players can continue to fight in the game. Only, what they didn't know was that the boss they were killing had actually just saved the earth. But, in the fight, some players finally found a problem. This boss that just disappeared and reappeared, how can it not release skills? Hey, why does Gul'dan feel a lot weaker, what about his skills? Yes, after playing for so long, he didn't release the two big moves he should release. Fell Sickle, and the Storm of Destruction. Something's wrong, it seems that he didn't call Death Knight either. Lin Yu also discovered this problem. The skill of Gul'dan, the boss, does have a relatively long cooling time. But, I haven't seen him put a skill until now. This is too strange. Immediately afterwards, Lin Yu suddenly thought of a possibility. Is it, after the skills are released in the real world, they haven't cooled down yet? Thinking of this possibility, Lin Yu suddenly felt aroused in his heart. How does it feel so weird? It seems that the world where Gul'dan is, and this Marvel world are figured out. The skills released here will affect the cooling time in the game world. So, here comes the biggest problem. Will Gul'dan remember what happened in the Marvel world after returning to the game world? Lin Yu was suddenly taken aback by his own thoughts. If it really is, that's really scary, definitely. What Lin Yu didn't know was, Gul'dan has already made a mark in this world. It is the supreme magician Ji Yu who is now retreating in Kamartaj to be marked. Ding, it is detected that there is fear in the host's heart, and the computer decides to transfer the control of the summoned object to the host's hands. After that, all the summoned objects will be controlled by the host, regardless of level and space. The system seems to fall short of Lin Yu's fear. Suddenly there was a new reaction. With this system prompt, Lin Yu recollected it over and over again, and his heart was full of joy. The summoned object is actually under its own control. Any level, no space. Isn't that cool and crooked? Lin Yu even felt that he should throw the computer at the door. Since the summoned objects are under their own control, it is naturally better. But, just after the system prompt dropped, another very strange thing appeared on Lin Yu's computer screen. On the computer screen, Boss Gul'dan, who was being abused by the players, suddenly turned green. What's happening here? Lin Yu was taken aback. In the game, the red name means that it can be attacked. And green is the color of teammates or player pet names. At the same time, the battle in the dungeon also stopped. All players can't attack B0SS Gul'dan. In the game chat box, a lot of question marks appeared in an instant. All the players were all dumbfounded. After brushing for a long time, I can't fight anymore. And, how could the boss in the game become a green name? In this dungeon journey, too many weird things have happened. First, the dungeon boss suddenly disappeared, and then reappeared a full hour later. Then the dungeon boss won't release the skills unexpectedly, which made the players happy for a while. Immediately afterwards, the name of boss turned green. Can't be attacked. The players who couldn't stand being tossed by the game hurriedly withdrew from the team and left this instance. Till the end, in the entire copy, only Lin Yu is left. At the moment, he was very excited, and clicked with the mouse on the only remaining B0SS Gul'dan in the dungeon. Really, what a god! Lin Yu almost jumped up. At the moment, Lin Yu finally understood what it means to not divide space. Not only is the boss summoned into this world, even if he is still in the game, as long as he has been summoned once, he will obey Lin Yu's orders. It's amazing, Lin Yu yelled in excitement, and then directly quit the dungeon and came to the wilderness of the game world. Really, Gul'dan also followed. Gul'dan turned out to be the pet of Lin Yu's game character. Lin Yu was still walking around with Gul'dan in the game excitedly. And at the moment, the outside world. The Battle of New York is finally over. Ancient One took his own disciples unconsciously, and finally returned to Kamar Taj with lingering fears. As soon as she returned, she announced that she was going to retreat. The disciples were a little puzzled. The Supreme Magician is so powerful, why still have to retreat? Even Mordor Magician, who has the best relationship with Ancient One, asked about the situation of Ancient One very puzzled. But Ancient One said nothing. She didn't know how to explain. At the same time, I also don't want people to know that a strange evil rune has been planted on his body. My disciples have too little knowledge of the evil energy, and their resistance to temptation is too poor. Caecilius, my most proud disciple, is the best example. He became Dormammu's servant because he couldn't resist the temptation of the dark power. Moreover, Ancient One found that that kind of evil power is even more prone to depravity than the dark power. She didn't even want the disciples to have any contact with those evil energies. Ancient One just said that he needed to comprehend some powerful magician skills, so he hid in his mirror space. In this regard, although other magicians are puzzled, there is no way. And Ancient One began a long study. The green rune in her soul made her sleepless. If she doesn't take out the rune, she is prepared not to go out of her mirror space. After the defeat, Loki was arrested again by the Avengers. Compared to the last time, Loki is much more honest this time. He was shocked by Gul'dan. Shield Ground headquarters. The Avengers gathered again. But the faces of everyone are not very beautiful. This war shocked them too much. These people have always been leaders in their respective fields. But it was not until they had personally participated in this horrible war that they understood that there are heaven and human beings outside the sky. Even Thor, who was fearless and fearless, was deeply terrified by Gul'dan's strength. He even felt that even if his father came, he might not be the opponent of that monster. Not to mention myself, and still lost Mjolnir's self. Thinking of his hammer, Thor felt aggrieved in his heart. If his own Mjolnir is still in hand, at least he can help a little bit in the previous battle. It's not that Tony Stark has always been stealing the limelight in the early stages. Everyone, who of you wants to come with me to get my hammer back? Thor suddenly looked at the Avengers next to him, and asked weakly. After this fierce battle, even Thor, the arrogant man, has established a deep friendship with the other Avengers. And Thor is really not familiar with the guy who grabbed his hammer. He didn't even know where he was. In addition, he can't sense Mjolnir at all now, so he can only turn to these companions around him. Ah, I have something else. Black Widow Natasha Romanoff suddenly smiled reluctantly and said, Lin Yu's lucky cat, after all, is only a second-level mutant. Natasha Romanoff has undergone professional agent training and gradually got rid of the influence of the lucky cat. She has noticed the weirdness of that grocery store. Hearing that Thor was going to find Lin Yu for a hammer, she was so scared that she tactfully expressed her refusal. But Thor didn't notice a trace of panic on Natasha Romanoff's face. He looked at the other companions again. Thor's gaze cast a circle on the faces of several of his companions. It seems that everyone is avoiding their gazes. Even Nick Fury next to him quietly turned his head, seeming to enjoy the scenery outside the window. I still have something to deal with in my company, I'm leaving first. Tony chuckled and called to everyone, "Roar," and left the SHIELD headquarters in a hurry. Dr. Banner hurriedly chased after him, and said as he ran, "Stark, wait for me, I have a knowledge point to discuss with you." The two of them slipped away in tandem. The captain of the United States next to him is a little hesitation. Seeing Thor's helplessness, although he didn't want to go to that weird grocery store, he couldn't bear not helping him. It's really a dilemma. But, fortunately, Hawkeye Barton spoke first. "Or, I'll accompany you." A gentle smile appeared on Barton's face. He really hadn't seen that mysterious consultant Lin. The last time Lin Yu went to the SHIELD space carrier, he happened to be controlled by Loki. So I didn't see it. For Lin Yu, he has no bad impression. The more important reason is that in the previous battle, he caused a lot of trouble to everyone. So, he wanted to make up for it. Even if you just make up for Thor first, it's better than doing nothing. Seeing Barton take the initiative to ask, Steve finally felt relieved. "Since Barton is going with you, I'll go back and rest first." Steve laughed dryly, and put a hand gently on the wound on his waist, looking like it was serious. As an honest man, Steve finally found an excuse for himself. It's been so long since the battle, and finally remembered to cover his wounds. But Thor didn't pay much attention to the reasons of these other people. Thor has never liked to care about these little things. In his heart, he was thinking about how to get his Mjolnir back. If Mjolnir can't get it back, then he doesn't even have a face to return to Asgard. Going back empty-handed, you will definitely be laughed at by Asgard's companion. Do not. There is no need to go back to Asgard. Loki alone can laugh at himself to death. For the sake of face, Mjolnir must also be brought back. Then, let's go now. Thor can't wait. Every minute left Mjolnir is a torment for him. Barton is also very interested. The only fellow among the members of the Avengers who has never seen Lin Yu, is still very curious about Lin Yu, an honorary consultant. He has asked Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson and others many times, but their descriptions of Lin Yu are very vague. At the beginning, I would take the initiative to advertise for Lin Yu's grocery store, saying that the goods there are good and cheap. But later, when they asked about the grocery store, they were silent. There seems to be something I don't want to mention. This makes Barton even more curious. What is it that makes Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson and others love and hate the grocery store so much? The two said goodbye to Nick Fury, and finally set foot on the road to Lin Yu grocery store. After the two left SHIELD headquarters, Nick Fury is not idle either. As the director of SHIELD, such a serious alien invasion has just happened, and he must revisit the war and learn some combat experience from it. And sum up the shortcomings of SHIELD, so that I can correct them later. Moreover, as the most direct commander of this war, he must also report all the details of this war to it. In a secret meeting room of SHIELD headquarters. Here, there are already two SHIELD high-level agents waiting for Nick Fury's arrival. One man and one woman are two of Nick Fury's most powerful men, Phil Coulson and Hill. The two of them are not only Nick Fury's most trusted subordinates, but also one of the two highest agent levels in addition to Nick Fury of SHIELD. They are Nick Fury's right and left hands. Nick Fury pressed the fingerprint on the door of the secret meeting room, then opened the door of the meeting room and walked in. Just now, the two have initially sorted out information about the war. After Nick Fury arrives, the two will report the compiled information to Director Fury. But, after Nick Fury pushed the door in, he immediately noticed that there was something wrong between the two of them. They look like they have something to tell themselves. The shock in their hearts was already on their faces. Something must have happened. Nick Fury hurriedly asked, "What's the situation? What happened?" While talking, Nick Fury sat down on the front chair. In this war, although SHIELD did not make much contribution to victory. But, after all, the war is over. And it ended with the victory of the Earth. This is perfect. So, even though the expressions of the two of them looked a bit wrong, Nick Fury didn't care too much. At this moment, hearing Director Fury's words, the two looked at each other, and finally Phil Coulson said first, "Post-Director, we discovered one thing when we were sorting out the video materials of this war. This matter is incredible, so we think we must tell you before the report begins." Phil Coulson's face is not solemn, but he doesn't feel relaxed at all. Oh, Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. As for what Phil Coulson was about to report, he suddenly became interested. He nodded and said, "Well, let's talk about what abnormal situation you found first." Nick Fury leaned back and changed to a more comfortable position. At this moment, Phil Coulson suddenly picked up the remote control on the table and turned on a display in the conference room. "Chairman, see for yourself. This is the video 2 minutes before the monster appeared in the middle of the war." Speaking of the content of this video, Phil Coulson's face showed a strange look again. Following the operation of Phil Coulson, the entire New York scene suddenly appeared on the monitor. The picture is very clear. It's like a close-up shot. But this video is not shot at close range. Instead, it was filmed through a dedicated satellite. The satellite that took this picture is exclusively dedicated to S.H.I.E.L.D. It was launched into orbit to enable S.H.I.E.L.D. to detect threats on the Earth in time. The video it shoots is very sharp. The picture on the monitor, following the operation of Phil Coulson, gradually moved to 58th Street in Manhattan, which is only a few kilometers from the center of New York. When he saw the bright yellow car with 2 small red wings on his body, Nick Fury immediately understood where this place was. "Isn't this Consultant Lin's grocery store?" Nick Fury asked suspiciously. In the previous war, Lin Yu did not take action at all. What does his grocery store do now? Nick Fury was a little confused. But neither Phil Coulson nor Hill answered, but pointed to the screen in front of them at the same time. Nick Fury could only keep his eyes wide open and looked at the video on the screen. In the picture, it can be clearly seen that the 2 women are standing quietly at the door. Beside them, there is a dog and a car. But immediately afterwards, a figure of huge amounts of suddenly appeared not far from the grocery store, and was flying to Lin Yu's grocery store. At this time, the woman standing in front, seeing that her figure and hair should be Sharon, suddenly raised a hammer in her hand. That hammer is familiar to Nick Fury. It seems to be Thor's weapon. This picture is also familiar. Before, Nick Fury had seen it on the computer screen. However, the sharpness of the picture at that time was not very good, just a rough idea. And now, seeing this super clear picture, Nick Fury still felt a deep shock. In the video, the sky suddenly became lightning and thunder. Countless thunder and lightning are flying in the sky. Amazing lightning began to appear on Mjolnir in Sharon's hand. Too strong. Although it was the second time I saw it, Nick Fury still felt the terrifying power. Nick Fury turned his gaze to Phil Coulson and Hill. "I want to confirm whether this is what the 2 want to show themselves. If you think of a way to get Sharon and the hammer into S.H.I.E.L.D., then S.H.I.E.L.D.'s strength will increase a lot. This is what you want to report, isn't it? It's really shocking. When I saw it for the first time, I felt a little unbelievable, but now I see it again, it still feels that way." Nick Fury's eyes are still slightly shocked. But, after hearing Nick Fury's words, Phil Coulson slowly shook his head and said, "No, Chief, not this." You continue to look down. Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment. "Not this, is there anything more shocking?" He looked at the screen again. Soon after, Nick Fury saw another picture. In the video, before Sharon could summon the thunder and lightning, another woman behind her suddenly floated slowly. It is clearer than the last time I saw it. Moreover, in this video, it is completely certain that the figure is Lin Yu's sister Wanda. Immediately afterwards, her body began to be filled with red light. The long skirt is flying, like a picture in a magic movie. Then, in Wanda's hands, a blood-red ball of light suddenly appeared. As she gently pushed forward, the blood-red ball of light shot out at the Leviathan beast in the distance at an extremely fast speed. That red ball of light exploded on the Leviathan monster. The power of horror broke out suddenly. Directly lifted the Leviathan beast into flight. Powerful. Fear. Nick Fury is very aware of the strength and huge size of the Leviathan. Although it is not big to watch on the video. However, in fact, it is 30 to 40 meters long. And the body is covered with a thick layer of armor. The weight and defense are so horrible. But it was such a behemoth that was hit by "Jow, isn't it good?" Wanda casually and hit it directly. It can be seen how terrifying Wanda's true power is. Compared to Sharon using a foreign object like Mjolnir to summon lightning, Wanda's ability looks more powerful. At this moment, Nick Fury seemed to finally understand why Phil Coulson and Hill had to report this to themselves first. This is really important. The cleaning screen of this video made myself more sure of the strength of Wanda and Sharon. It is indeed worthy of my own focus. After knowing this news, S.H.I.E.L.D. is expected to change his strategy in the arrangement of Lin Yu's affairs. Well, it can be seen in the video that the powerful woman is Lin Yu's sister Wanda. This news is very important. We can look back on whether we want to invite Lin Yu's sister Wanda into Avengers 2. Nick Fury said solemnly. In Nick Fury's heart, he attaches greater importance to Lin Yu's family. But good. At this moment, Phil Coulson suddenly coughed slightly, and then said weakly, "Chief, it's not this," you continue to look down. Hearing what Phil Coulson said, Nick Fury was completely stunned. Still continue to look down. I have already seen 2 things that shocked me so much. Will there be more shocking things in the future? Nick Fury was filled with doubts. Whether it was the powerful lightning controlled by Sharon or the blood-red light on Wanda, they were already extremely powerful. These are already terrible. Could it be that there will be more terrible things? Nick Fury is actually a little unbelievable. However, seeing the solemn expressions of Phil Coulson and Hill, he gradually frowned. These 2 agents are not guys who like to joke. They said that if you continue to look down, it should be that something else will happen later. Nick Fury hurriedly widened his eyes and stared at the screen in front of him for fear of missing something. At the moment, in the video, Wanda's attack easily lifted the Leviathan behemoth. Immediately afterwards, Mjolnir in Sharon's hand also attracted all the lightning in the sky. Sharon waved the hammer in his hand, and the huge electric current instantly hit the Leviathan beast that had been lifted away. Those electric currents are very harmful to Leviathan. In addition, Wanda's attack has caused it to hurt badly. So, under the attack of these lightnings, the body of the giant Leviathan suddenly fell to the ground. Countless buildings and cars on the ground were crushed. The stone chips flew up and the smoke and dust billowed. The whole ground seemed to shake. However, just 2 or 3 seconds after Leviathan's body fell to the ground, a group of green light flew out from the door of Lin Yu's grocery store in an instant. High speed. Disappeared in the video screen. If it weren't for this S.H.I.E.L.D. special satellite filming of high quality, I would never find the thing. At the same time, with the remote control in his hand, Phil Coulson suddenly paused the screen. Then, the scope of the video suddenly widened. The green light group appeared in the video again. Phil Coulson played the video again. But, the speed of the video has been slowed down a bit. Nick Fury can clearly see that the green light group has come a few kilometers away from the grocery store. Then, going underground. Yes, it actually got into the earth. Immediately afterwards, a horrible scene appeared. At the place where the green light cluster sank into the ground, suddenly the ground began to bulge and the house began to tilt. It seems that some giant is burrowing out of the ground. Only a few seconds later, a huge amounts of portal appeared at that location. And, the figure of Gul'dan also slowly walked out of the portal. Nick Fury was stunned. The expression was sluggish, and it seemed that the brain couldn't react. Until now, he didn't know the name of that monster. But he understood that the monster was quite terrifying, and the almost invincible Kitar army that Loki bragged about was defeated by him. One person resisted an extremely powerful race in the entire universe. Even counterattacked back. It's like a god. Do not. Demon. That guy, resurrecting the corpse and summoning the soul is definitely a means of the devil. Although Nick Fury has always been puzzled about Gul'dan's origins. But never thought of it. That terrifyingly powerful monster turned out to be from Lin Yu's grocery store. The green ball of light came out of the grocery store. This has basically been determined. The monster that defeated Chitauri's army by one person was created by Lin Yu. Oh my. Nick Fury seemed to have lost all his strength and collapsed on his chair. When the power is strong enough to not be afraid of everything, then it has transcended the shackles of the world. Nick Fury finally understood. Why is Lin Yu acting so selfishly? No one is afraid of offending, even Thor's hammer dared to snatch it away. Original. There is a reason for all this. At this moment, Phil Coulson walked slowly to Nick Fury's side, with a bitter face, and said weakly, "Director, this is what we want to show you." Nick Fury has not been relieved in shock. Phil Coulson was ignored. At the moment, in his heart, there was more than shock. There is also fear. Lin Yu can summon such an existence. Basically there is no opponent on Earth. I'm afraid, Just to put CDAH eyes on the entire universe, it is estimated that it is top-notch. Fortunately, when I first met Lin Yu, I got closer to him. And also gave Sharon to him as an assistant. If I refused at that time, I am afraid it is definitely not the case now. Do not. No, such a relationship is not strong enough. Nick Fury's brain turned frantically. As the world's largest agent leader in Marvel, his head is very smart. In the past, no matter what the problem was, he could easily think of a solution. But, face Lin Yu, he felt that he must be cautious and cautious. Make sure that the opponent and yourself are completely on the same line. Only by building a good relationship with Lin Yu can the Earth be truly safe. What Thor, what Loki, it's all clouds. The real powerhouse is Lin Yu, who has been living low-key in the grocery store on 58th Avenue in Manhattan. At this moment, Nick Fury tipped and got up from the chair. He suddenly remembered that Thor and Barton seemed to have gone to Lin Yu's grocery store. They seemed to want to bring Thor's hammer back together. Don't make them impulsive. Don't provoke Lin Yu. Let's not say if Lin Yu gets angry, can the two of them be able to handle it? Even if you are not angry, it will affect the relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Lin Yu. This can't work. Hill, contact Barton for me. If he and Thor have not yet arrived at Lin Yu's grocery store, let them come back quickly. Nick Fury said hurriedly. Hill was taken aback for a moment. Immediately afterwards, I thought of what Chief Fury was worried about. Because these two people seem to be aggressive just now, are they going to trouble Lin Yu? Hill was equally shocked, hastily picked up his cell phone. While dialing the number, he asked, Chief, what if they have already arrived? Without thinking about it, Nick Fury hurriedly said, Here, let Barton hold Thor, don't do it. Nick Fury's worried face was full of sweat. He knows the character of Lin Yu very well. If you respect him a foot, he may not respect you half a foot. But if you dare to provoke him, then his revenge will never stay overnight. General Ross of the New York Military District is the best example. At this moment, Barton's call finally got through. Hill hurriedly asked, Barton, did you and Thor go to Consultant Lin's grocery store? On the phone, Barton's voice came, Here, what's the matter? Hearing Barton's words, the expression on Hill's face suddenly became more solemn. She lowered her voice and said slowly, The chief has ordered you to hold Thor, don't do it in the grocery store. Over the phone, Barton seemed to hesitation. It seems that I don't know how to reply to Hill. A few seconds passed. On the phone, Barton's voice came, Okay, I will try to hold him. Hill's expression changed. Nick Fury was shocked, and secretly said something bad. Hastily grabbed the phone from Hill's hands. Then he said nervously, Don't try your best, be sure to hold him, don't do it, I will fly over immediately. It turns out, Nick Fury's worries are unnecessary. When Nick Fury took Hill to Lin Yu grocery store, Thor is in the grocery store, squatting on the ground, crying bitterly while holding his Thor hammer. Barton stood aside, seemingly at a loss. And Lin Yu, standing beside Thor, comforted him softly. Don't be too sad, this hammer is not your loss, the world is so big, you can choose more and better weapons. What a harmonious and friendly scene. Nick Fury was stunned as soon as he entered the door. Hill is the same. I really can't believe what I saw in front of me. How can it be so weird? Hill looked at Barton, who was aside. However, Barton just spread his hands, saying that he also didn't understand. Originally, after Thor came to Lin Yu's grocery store, he was going to forcibly take away his hammer. And the attitude is not very friendly. Seeing to do it. But, to Barton's surprise, Lin Yu's attitude is very kind. It simply subverted the limit of Barton's imagination. Not only took the hammer out of the initiative, but he didn't even care about Thor's call. Then, this is the scene now. Thor excitedly wanted to take his hammer, but found that he couldn't hold it at all. After a lot of effort, the hammer still didn't move. Thor collapsed, holding the hammer left sad tears. At this time, Lin Yu's reaction once again made Barton feel extremely absurd. Lin Yu comforted Thor in harmony and kindness. Is this Consultant Lin so good-tempered? Thor was clearly mad just now, but Lin Yu didn't care at all. At the moment, Lin Yu still stood quietly beside Thor, acting as a comforter. Lin Yu didn't care about the arrival of Nick Fury and Hill. He didn't even look at them, just intently comforting Thor. Under Lin Yu's enlightenment, Thor finally opened his heart. The last time I couldn't hold Mjolnir, it was because of my father Odin who was testing me, but even though I couldn't get Mjolnir at that time, I still knew that it was still waiting for me. But, this time, I can't feel it at all, as if it has really abandoned me. Thor hasn't been so sad for a long time. Even when he smashed Bifrost last time and he hadn't seen his girlfriend for a long time, Thor was not so sad. Mjolnir, in Thor's life, is even more important than his girlfriend. They have been with them for thousands of years. No matter what battles or sufferings are, they are all spent together. Thor couldn't think of why Mjolnir would give up on himself. Hill on the side, after seeing Thor's appearance, his mood began to fall. A man, for the sake of a hammer, could be sad like this. It's also a kind of love. Thor squatted on the ground, holding Mjolnir's hammer handle in both hands. But, obviously Mjolnir was motionless. It's like growing on the ground. These people around know the characteristics of Mjolnir. That is, if it is not for the person recognized by Mjolnir, it is absolutely impossible to pick it up. Obviously, Thor was abandoned by his hammer. At this time, Lin Yu patted Thor on the shoulder again and comforted, "Brother, don't cry, or I recommend you a weapon that is more suitable for you. A real warrior like you shouldn't use a hammer like this. For the weapon, you should take a powerful axe that can reflect your identity. And your hammer is too small." After Lin Yu finished speaking, he cast a color on Wanda who was not far behind. Wanda understood, and took an axe from the shelf. This axe was made by Lin Yu who arranged for Wanda to find someone to build it. The shape of the axe is a bit like Thor's late weapon, Storm Axe, but the workmanship is not particularly good. It looks like a plastic toy mass-produced with molds. But, the weight is not light. It weighs tens of kilograms. After all, it's all made of iron knots. Wanda picked it up very hard, even dragging it to Lin Yu's face on the ground. Lin Yu glanced at the axe, then glanced at the faint red light on Wanda's arm, and decisively did not pick up the axe in Wanda's hand. "Sing, put it on the ground," Lin Yu said lightly. Boom! Wanda threw the axe on the ground. This voice also alarmed Thor, who was grieving. He turned his head in some doubt and looked at the axe that was thrown on the ground at random. There was a sudden light in his eyes. This axe has a very nice shape." But, Thor still shook his head. Sadly said, "Although the shape of this axe is really good looking, I still want my Mjolnir." Lin Yu was taken aback for a moment. "This Thor, why don't you follow the plot? It shouldn't be." Lin Yu turned his head and glanced at the beckoning cat who was still beckoning. A hint of doubt appeared in his eyes. "It's impossible. Only a second-level lucky cat, can't it affect a powerful guy like Thor? But this guy, although his strength is very strong, his brain is no different from ordinary human beings. It's even much worse than smarter humans." Lin Yu's face suddenly became cloudy and uncertain. Nick Fury on the side also saw Lin Yu's appearance change, and his mood instantly became tense. Could it be that what Lin Yu is going to do to Thor? After knowing Lin Yu's true power, what he fears most now is to accidentally provoke Lin Yu. But, Nick Fury was worried, but he didn't dare to do anything. And at the moment, Lin Yu suddenly stood up and turned around slowly. Slowly, he walked to the table at the door of the grocery store. Then, Lin Yu squinted, grabbed the lucky cat on the table and threw it on the ground. "Wanda, tear down this broken lucky cat and throw it into the trash can," Lin Yu said suddenly. This scene completely stunned the few people present. Lin Yu's behavior is completely incomprehensible. It does not make sense. Even if I get angry, I haven't seen anyone who gets angry with the lucky cat. Ding! The beckoning cat felt the anger in the owner's heart, and decided to work hard, increase his ability, and lure ability to increase by 3 times. The specially trained high-level agent can no longer get rid of the control of the beckoning cat. In Lin Yu's mind, a system prompt sounded suddenly. Really, the lucky cat has mutated again. And, at the moment, the beckoning cat showed on its head that it had become a 3rd-level mutant. But, Lin Yu still put his arms around his chest, coldly looking at the lucky cat on the ground. There was no expression of joy on his face. On the side, Wanda, although she was a little confused about why her brother wanted to throw away the lucky cat, but with so many people present, she couldn't doubt it, and could only slowly walk towards the lucky cat on the ground. It seems that in the next step Wanda will execute Lin Yu's order to crush the lucky cat. Sudden. In Lin Yu's mind, the system prompt sounded again. Ding, your beckoning cat is scared, and decided to increase his strength until the owner is satisfied, so as to induce a tenfold increase in ability. Even if he is a demigod, he will fall under its pomegranate skirt. Seeing that Wanda was about to step on the beckoning cat, Lin Yu suddenly reached out to stop it. Okay, I just frighten it, put it back. The whole grocery store. In other words, for all the mutants around Lin Yu, only the lucky cat is this virtue. If you don't frighten, it won't know that it takes the initiative to become stronger. Lin Yu knows it well. Therefore, there will be previous actions. But, this scene, for Nick Fury and others, seems extremely strange. Let Lin Yu's image in their hearts become moody again. The more moody the person, the more terrifying. Nick Fury and Hill took 2 steps back gently. They have already arrived at the door of the grocery store, and as long as they turn their heads, they can immediately run out of this weird place. Although Nick Fury feels that he must have a good relationship with Lin Yu, but at least on the premise that he can save his life. As for Barton, who was standing on the other side, it seemed a little bit stupid. He has been in a daze ever since he entered this grocery store. Until now, it hasn't been relieved. The 747 here is really weird. He seemed to feel that he understood Natasha Romanoff and Phil Coulson a little bit. Lin Yu feels that he is not a good person. He knew it very well. But there are 2 kinds of people Lin Yu still cares a lot. The first one is people like Wanda and Sharon who are regarded as family members. The second kind. This is Thor. It's the customer. Any customer, Lin Yu is willing to tolerate. After all, the customer is God. Lin Yu came to Thor again. Gently patted Thor on the shoulder. Then he said, look at this axe again, you can pick it up and try again, I promise you will love it. Hearing Lin Yu's words, Thor was a little reluctant, but once again looked at the axe on the ground that made him feel really good. This look, his eyes never left the axe again. And at the moment, just as Thor looked at the axe, the lucky cat that was just put on the table by Wanda, his eyes suddenly lit up with a faint red light. However, no one paid attention to it. In Thor's heart, he suddenly felt that his feelings for Mjolnir were slightly loosened. Lin Yu is right. Even if you don't want this axe, it won't hurt to pick it up and try it. In the eyes of everyone's attention, Thor stood up and came to the axe. He bent down and grabbed the handle of the axe. This axe, which feels heavy even when Wanda uses the power of Scarlet Witch, is like a toy in Thor's hand. Easy. Very handy. Thor even rounded a flower with the axe in his hand. Before, his weapon had always been Mjolnir. And Mjolnir was in his hands, as if there was no weight at all. In fact, the fight was really not easy. And now, holding this axe in his hand makes Thor feel very useful. It's weird. Why do I think other weapons are very useful? Thor frowned slightly, puzzled. However, he kept playing with the axe in his hand. But, Thor still found something that he couldn't accept. This axe is really handy, and the shape is very good, but the only drawback is that it does not allow me to control the power of thunder. Thor said sadly. Finally, I found a handy weapon. Unfortunately, it can't let its greatest ability play out. Lin Yu frowned slightly when he heard Thor's words. There are so many things for Thor. Lin Yu let out a long breath, then his face became solemn. With one hand resting on Thor's shoulder, he slowly said, have you ever thought that you are Thor, not the god of hammers? Your supernatural power does not come from that hammer, but yours itself. Hearing Lin Yu's words, Thor's expression was taken aback. As if there was a new road, appeared in front of me. At this moment, Lin Yu continued, have you ever thought that the hammer restrains you and prevents you from becoming a real Thor? You have to feel the ubiquitous thunder with your heart, not with your hammer. Thor's heart lifted. He felt that Lin Yu's words seemed to be an initiation. That's too right. I am Thor, not the god of hammers. That hammer is not the reason why he can summon lightning. I can control the lightning purely because I am Thor. Boom. Suddenly endless lightning flashed in the sky outside the grocery store. Dark clouds are condensing at a terrifying speed. The entire sky outside was completely dark. And in the grocery store, A terrifying thunder and lightning began to condense on Thor's body. Even his eyes glowed with bright silver. Lin Yu, frightened. Especially Meow, this guy is really metamorphosis. I just copied a few words from his father Odin. Unexpectedly, let him really attract thunder and lightning without using Mjolnir. Will his own grocery store be chopped into scum? Seeing the thunder and lightning in the sky, it must pass through the roof of the grocery store and fall directly on Thor's head. Lin Yu was shocked. He hurriedly bent down, grabbed Mjolnir, and threw it to Wanda. Go and lead the thunder and lightning elsewhere. Wanda took Mjolnir casually and was about to run out. At this moment, Sharon, who was a little closer to the door, suddenly said, quickly, give it to me, I'll go. Sharon has been standing quietly in the doorway ever since these people came. Sharon will go faster. At the moment, the thunder in the sky became more and more fierce. Wanda didn't hesitation either, and threw Mjolnir at Sharon directly. Sharon took Mjolnir easily and ran to the grocery store in an instant. She lifted Mjolnir. The thunder and lightning in the sky seemed to have found a new breakthrough and instantly went to Sharon. Boom, boom, boom. The endless thunder and lightning seemed to be infused into Sharon's body through Mjolnir. These lightnings have exceeded the upper limit that Mjolnir can store. For a time, Sharon's life was dead. Her body is just an ordinary person. Although because of long-term training, it is better than the average person. But the number of these lightning is too much. She couldn't resist even the slightest thunder and lightning. Not to mention such huge amounts of power of the thunder and lightning. The thunder and lightning summoned during the previous battle did not actually touch Sharon's body, and was controlled by Mjolnir. But now, a huge amount of power of the thunder and lightning, following Mjolnir's hammer handle, spread into Sharon's body in an instant. Nick Fury and Hill Agent, the closest to Sharon, were shocked. The last thing Nick Fury wants to see is that something happened to Sharon. Sharon is now the biggest link between Nick Fury and Lin Yu. If something happens to Sharon, the relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Lin Yu will never be as good as before. And Lin Yu is very likely to run away. But faced with such a terrifying thunder and lightning, ordinary people like Nick Fury have no way at all. And at the moment, Lin Yu also showed a hint of horror on his face. He didn't expect it to be like this. Ding! Sharon's body has received Thunder's transformation and gradually adapted to this comfortable feeling. Awakening the thunder and lightning physique, it is easy to control the thunder and lightning. It is not an exaggeration to call it a female Thor. Ding! Miller noticed Sharon's powerful physique, and suddenly fell in love with this female Thor, and decided to follow the left and right, and never betrayed. The dark clouds in the sky suddenly disappeared gradually. A clear sky was exposed. And at the moment, on the ground, Sharon's body still flashed thunderously. Countless thunder and lightning swam everywhere on Sharon's body. Electric arcs rose in her body. But the things Nick Fury and Hill were worried about did not happen. Sharon still stood there still. Those thunder and lightning did not seem to have done any harm to Sharon at all. On the contrary, it was a bit like a little pet that had met his owner and was jumping happily. Sharon stretched out one of her hands, and a lightning bolt suddenly shot from her hand. Then fell back to his hands again. The obedient is like a good baby. There was also a bright silver light in Sharon's eyes. It was almost exactly the same as Thor in the room. The only difference, it was Mjolnir who was in Sharon's hands, and there was also thunder and lightning jumping non-stop. But the axe in Thor's hand did not see any change at all. After all, it was just an iron bump. Although it can conduct electricity. But it can't store lightning. Nick Fury was stunned. Hill Agent covered his mouth with an incredible face. Barton's eyes widened, not knowing what to say. As for Thor, he has forgotten the joy of awakening Thor's power just now, and looked at the woman outside the door with shocked face. She is even able to control thunder and lightning. Could it be? Is she the daughter of her father who lived out many years ago? Could it be that it is your own younger sister or older sister? Otherwise, how could she control thunder and lightning? It is absolutely impossible for ordinary people on Earth to control the power of thunder and lightning. Thor was stunned, not knowing what to say for a moment. Immediately afterwards, the thunder and lightning on Thor and Sharon gradually dissipated. Sharon also took Mjolnir and walked in from outside. At this time, Nick Fury remembered something that made him feel extremely strange. Just now, Mjolnir seems to have passed the hands of 3 people in total. First Lin Yu picked it up easily and threw it to his sister Wanda, then Wanda threw it to Sharon again. In other words, in just a few seconds, all 3 of them picked up Mjolnir. And it looks pretty relaxed. But the original owner of Mjolnir, Thor, still couldn't pick it up. It's extremely weird. Nick Fury shook his head and pulled his thoughts back. In Lin Yu's grocery store, it seems that no matter what happens, it is normal. Even Sharon can control the thunder and lightning, and several people can pick up the hammer, which is not a shocking thing. At this moment, Thor finally spoke. He pointed to Mjolnir, who was held by Sharon, and said, "You Mjolnir." He didn't mean to come back now. Because, at the moment, he already felt that this woman must be his sister or younger sister. Therefore, it is not difficult for her to pick up Mjolnir. But, before he finished speaking, Lin Yu interrupted him. Lin Yu hurriedly pulled Thor and turned his attention away from Sharon. At this time, Lin Yu didn't want Thor to pay too much attention to Sharon and the Mjolnir in her hands. "How do you feel now?" Lin Yu asked with a smile. Thor's expression finally showed a smile for the first time after arriving at the grocery store. He has never felt so good. There seems to be endless power in the body. And, he can feel that if he wants thunder, thunder will appear in his body instantly. As if he was the incarnation of thunder. Thor nodded and said, "Well, that's good, you were right, that hammer is just a time limit for my strength." Lin Yu chuckled. "It's done." But, without waiting for Lin Yu to say anything, Thor continued, "I have decided to return Mjolnir to my father. I will use this axe as my weapon in the future." Hearing this, Lin Yu was taken aback. "What the hell? You don't want this hammer, but you have to return the hammer to your father." Joke. Lin Yu's face immediately came down. But, Lin Yu did not directly talk about Mjolnir. He just said earnestly, "Your decision is correct. This axe really fits your temperament," Lin Yu said as he took Thor's hand and walked to the shelf. Thor is a little unclear. How did Lin Yu pull himself to the shelf? "I'm not here to buy things." But, Lin Yu thoughtfully pointed at a price tag on the shelf. Above, a number is written in Arabic numerals. The product name is also written on the top of the number. Storm Tomahawk. Price. Thor's expression suddenly froze. He looked at the price tag, and then at the axe in his hand. Weakly asked, "The name of this axe, isn't it called Storm Axe?" Lin Yu smiled and nodded, and said, "Well, this name is very domineering." Thor was completely stunned. Although that string of numbers, he has not yet figured out what it is. However, just by looking at the string of zeros at the back, you know that it is an astronomical number. Moreover, even if it was 10 yuan, he didn't have it. Not to mention that terrifying astronomical number. Lin Yu, what does this mean? Is it possible that this axe, ask for money? Thor looked at Lin Yu incredulously. His eyes were full of doubts. "You mean, wouldn't it be, I still need to pay for this axe?" Thor said weakly. The expression on Lin Yu's face was exaggerated and surprised. Seemingly glanced at Suer as if he was mentally retarded. Then he said in shock, "No, my brother, this is a grocery store, it's a store, how can I not ask for money? Is there no store there? Don't you go to Asgard's store to buy things without money? No money, how can we make money, how can we have the funds to buy?" Lin Yu said a lot with a face. Tell Thor directly. But, he felt that what Lin Yu said really makes sense. Isn't the shop just to make money? Asgard also has shops. Although he is the prince of Asgard, he needs money to buy things. Thor points to the price tag, then counts it carefully. 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. 900 billion. Thor's surprised roar. He still doesn't quite understand how much so many dollars are. Thor was just surprised that roar was at the huge number. At this moment, Lin Yu patted Thor on the shoulder again as if he was a close friend, and said, "There is an old saying on our planet called, brothers make clear accounts. Although our relationship is very good, you still have to give money. Definitely, I also know that you may have no money, but you can borrow it, ask friends, relatives, sisters, you can borrow it." Speaking of borrowing money, Thor's eyes lit up. Among the people present it is estimated that the richest person is Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is a director after all. It should be very rich. Thor hurriedly turned his head and looked at Nick Fury. Nick Fury has been listening to the conversation between Lin Yu and Thor. He also heard clearly the amount of 900 billion. At this moment, seeing Thor turned his head to look at him, Nick Fury's head was about to explode. 900 billion. Even if the special cat sells shield, it is not enough. Wrong. Selling several shield, it is not enough. This Lin Yu, he doesn't want to sell it at all. In Nick Fury's mind, he thought a lot in an instant. He also guessed what Lin Yu meant. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the head of a generation of agents, he is still very smart. But, there are some things that I know, but I can't tell them. Nick Fury shook his hand hurriedly, and then said, Thor, it's not that I don't help you. This price is too expensive. Among the people you know on Earth, Tony Stark is the richest, even Tony's worth tens of billions. And, Nick Fury said weakly again, the value of this thing is still two different things from whether you can spend so much money. After Nick Fury's introduction, Thor finally understood how expensive the axe in his hand was. He turned his head and looked at Lin Yu again with a bitter expression. But, Lin Yu was unmoved. Moreover, he said lightly, this kind of precious weapon should be worth a little higher, right? Thor frowned and nodded slightly. It seems to say so, that's right. How can the things that I fancy is too cheap? Thor grasped the storm axe hand tighter and tighter. His eyes looked firmly at Lin Yu. There is no fear at all. I really want this axe. Tell me what to do, I really don't have money. Thor asked the rascal directly. Lucky Cat is very powerful. However, it is difficult for a clever woman to cook without rice. The essence of the Lucky Cat is to bring money to the store. However, I didn't want to meet a guy who didn't have any money. But, Lin Yu smiled. He didn't want Thor's money in the first place. Even if Thor borrowed 900 billion, he wouldn't sell it to him like this. Lin Yu's goal is always the Mjolnir who was caught by Sharon. Although Mjolnir now recognizes Sharon as the master. But for Lin Yu, that was not enough. Without Thor's active consent, this transaction would not be considered a success, and his behavior would be considered robbing. Thor is okay. Lin Yu can reason with him. Even if it doesn't make sense, wouldn't there be Wanda and Sharon? But, Lin Yu still doesn't want to contact the legendary Odin who has the different strengths of level Godfather. After all, I don't care about what I do. When someone came to the door, he couldn't hold back his old face. Even if you can fight, you have to settle down on the crime of robbing others. If you can't beat it, it's probably even worse. Immediately afterwards, Lin Yu's face showed a trace of sadness. It seems that a sad decision has been made. Lin Yu patted Thor on the shoulder again, and then slowly said, actually, I am not such a heartless person. We have a good relationship. I don't want you to get the weapon you like. How about this? Lin Yu sighed, as if he was at a loss. You can use that unusable Mjolnir to exchange for this powerful storm axe. Lin Yu said slowly. Hearing this suggestion, Thor's face suddenly showed a hesitation look. Mjolnir, although it is his own hammer. But it is also the property of Asgard. If he personally traded Mjolnir, would his father agree? This, Thor still has some hesitation. Lin Yu suddenly reached out and stopped Thor from continuing. Then, he picked up a very brightly colored cloak from the shelf and said to Thor, well, if you are willing to exchange it, then I will give you another treasure of the town in the store. Quote exclamation mark quote. After that, Lin Yu also pointed to the price tag on the cloak. Is also a bunch of zero. Thor was taken aback for a moment. Immediately afterwards, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. He nodded and said, brother, I didn't see you wrong as expected. That's it. Thor also likes this cloak. It's more cool than the red cloak before. And, judging from this price alone, it should be a good thing not weaker than Storm Axe. Lin Yu smiled and put the cloak directly on Thor's shoulder. Subsequently, the two smiled at each other. It is more than words. On the side, Nick Fury, Hill and Barton were completely dumbfounded. This all works. What is this operation? Thor's matter was finally resolved. But, the people present did not leave in a hurry. Because, Wanda has already started to sell products to these people. You are the legendary Hawkeye Barton. Is your archery particularly accurate? Are you nervous when shooting arrows? Will your palms sweat? Or choose a pair of gloves? This is simply to prevent sweaty palms from causing bows and arrows to misfire. Artifact. Director Fury, you are a regular customer. We have recently put in some new eye masks, which are novel in style and comfortable in material. Would you like to pick one? This one, it should be the Hill Agent. I heard Sister Sharon tell you about you. Look here, we have the latest jewelry in our shop, with many styles. There will definitely be the one that suits you. Subsequently, several people enthusiastically picked up the goods in the grocery store. As for Lin Yu, he sat back in his gaming chair. Erlang's legs are cocked. Lost in thought. Over the past 2 days, too much has happened. There are also many gains. I finally got my favorite weapon in the Marvel world. The only pity is that Mjolnir actually recognized Sharon as the master. I can't use it anymore. But Lin Yu is not too sorry. After all, Sharon is now his own. It is a good thing for her to use it and let her protect herself. And Wanda's strength is so strong. If Sharon is still an ordinary person, then she will definitely feel a little uncomfortable in her heart. If there is no Mjolnir, if the thunder and lightning physique is not awakening, then Sharon is still too weak. What? Wrong. The weakest seems to be myself. After these things, Lin Yu felt for the first time that he was indeed a little weak. Whenever you encounter any battle, you must hide behind. It is indeed a shame to need 2 women to protect. And there are many things I want to do, but there is no ability. For example, another example, I just wanted to get the Storm Axe, but because I couldn't get it, I had to ask Wanda to help it. It is indeed a bit inconvenient for this kind of little things in life to be too weak. But this infinite mutation system in oneself, although it can make things around oneself mutate, but it won't let the host mutate. In other words, it is a bit difficult to improve one's strength through the system. So, in the Marvel world, what else can improve your strength? Iron Man's steel battle suit is one. If Lin Yu wants, he will always find a way to get it. However, the steel battle suit cannot be worn all the time. When not wearing it, it is an ordinary person. The serum injected by the Captain of the United States is also considered one. But the degree of becoming stronger is only average. If the Captain of the United States had not brought the protagonist halo, his actual strength would not be much stronger. And also, Lin Yu suddenly thought of a stronger one. Lin Yu's eyes gradually lit up. At this moment, Lin Yu hurriedly stood up and came to Nick Fury, who was choosing the blindfold. Then he forcibly pulled Nick Fury aside, and said, "Director Fury, are we friends?" Nick Fury was overjoyed. With such a question, isn't it necessary to have good news? Although Nick Fury's thoughts were a bit seduced by the lucky cat, it was only limited to consumption in the grocery store. Other thoughts are still normal. Definitely count as a friend. Nick Fury said solemnly. He came here in a hurry just to prevent the breakdown of this friendship. As for buying blindfolds, it's just a matter of course. After seeing Lin Yu's true power, Nick Fury has already decided to do everything possible to have a good relationship with Lin Yu. At this moment, Lin Yu suddenly smiled and said, "Actually, I have a small matter to trouble you." Hearing Lin Yu's words, Nick Fury was even more happy. This is what you want. Being able to help Lin Yu is definitely beneficial to the relationship between S.H.I.E.L.D. and Lin Yu. No trouble, just say anything you want. Nick Fury said proudly. He was already seated and ready. Even if Lin Yu puts forward something a little bit too much, he must find a way to satisfy the other party. Lin Yu casually waved his hand and said, "It's not too big a matter. Don't you S.H.I.E.L.D. have some convenient conditions? I just want you to find someone for me." "Who?" Nick Fury asked hurriedly. "Killian, a not-so-famous scientist," Lin Yu said lightly. Nick Fury and others eventually left Lin Yu's grocery store. But each of them bought the goods they like very much. When I left, there was a contented smile on his face. Definitely, the happiest thing is Thor. With a hammer, he changed 2 things he liked very much. A powerful and handy axe, and a gorgeous and windy cloak. It can be said to be a prophet. S.H.I.E.L.D. ground headquarters. Thor is saying his final goodbye to Avengers, companions. At the moment, he is holding a storm battle axe, and wearing a golden cloak on his back. The shape is really weird. But Thor himself was very satisfied with these outfits. The Avengers who were seeing off around wanted to laugh, but they still held back. At this time of parting, if you really laughed, it would appear that the people of the earth are too rude. Everyone was holding back very hard. Loki was holding back very hard. At the moment, Loki has already put on special shackles made by S.H.I.E.L.D., and even his mouth has been put on something to prevent him from talking nonsense. Only, his eyes couldn't help but look at his old brother's cloak. Forget the axe. At least it looks decent without looking at the details. But this cloak is simply too exaggerated. There are golden sequins everywhere, and the sun can blind the dog's eyes of people around. It's so festive. If it weren't for Loki to be unable to speak now, he would definitely damage Thor to death. Finally, Thor said goodbye to everyone. Then, he twisted the small machine that specializes in controlling the word Tesseract in his hand. The figure of Thor and Loki instantly turned into a stream of light and left the earth. After the two left, the remaining Avengers finally couldn't help laughing. It's really suffocated. Definitely. There is also no smile. That is Barton. Barton didn't seem to get everyone's laugh. Barton, what's the situation with Thor? Why did he go to Consultant Lin's grocery store and his aesthetics changed when he came back? Banner asked first. He had to endure too hard just now and almost squeezed out Hulk. Barton was actually too sure what was going on. Why? Thor exchanged 2 of his broken hammers. Moreover, those 2 things look much better than his hammer. It should be because the previous aesthetic was too bad, but now I finally get the hang of it. Barton gently stroked his hair with his gloved hand, and said faintly. This answer confuses Banner. Got better. What is better? Tony also smiled and asked at this time, Barton, are you having a fever? Is it better? Tony leaned forward and rolled back with a smile. CDAH. This makes Barton feel a little strange. I think it's the aesthetic problem of the 2 of you. Barton frowned and said weakly. His expression is serious. It's not like a joke. When Barton said this again, Banner and Tony seemed to notice something wrong. The smiles on their faces gradually disappeared. At this moment, Steve finally spoke. He also noticed that something was not quite right. Funny is funny, but this is what happened to my companion after all. Steve said, or, take Barton to see a psychiatrist. He used to be in the army and often encountered psychological problems caused by soldiers because of the repression of war. See a psychiatrist, it can be solved. But, Natasha Romanoff denied Steve's statement for the first time. She looked again at Barton, who was extremely serious, with a wry smile on her face. Forget it, the psychiatrist should not be able to cure his disease, it will be better after a while. Natasha Romanoff thoughtfully. She is very familiar with this experience. But, the current Natasha Romanoff has returned to normal. Before everyone asked why, she turned and left. It seems that there are some things I don't want to mention. Asgard, Royal Palace. Thor first escorted Loki to Asgard's prison. Then I went to the palace to meet my parents. But, when Thor's figure appeared in front of Odin and his mother Frigga. Odin and Frigga were stunned. In just 1 or 2 days, his son turned out to be like this. It's simply non-mainstream. That's nothing more than the rough axe in the hand. This cloak, I don't know it, I thought it was a costume. Do not. Even the clothes used to perform stage plays are not exaggerated by his cloak. The shiny golden yellow is too dazzling. It's like a joker. Frigga hurriedly won, grabbing Thor's arms, and asked worriedly, Thor, what's the situation with you? What are you wearing? Thor didn't hear the other meaning in his mother's words. He even turned around as if showing off. Then he said, Mother, how is it, does it look good? Frigga was stunned. I hurriedly touched Thor's forehead with his hand, wanting to see if he has a fever. However, obviously not. Frigga could only look at Odin, who was sitting on the throne with a look in her eyes for help. But, Odin clearly had a trace of anger on his face at this time. Odin was really angry when he saw that his son was dressed so funny. As a crown prince, the successor of the future God King, how can he be so careless about his image? But, this is nothing. Where is Mjolnir? As soon as Thor entered the door, Odin found that Thor was not holding his weapon in his hand. You know, Thor never throws Mjolnir around. That is his favorite weapon. At this moment, Odin didn't bother with the look in his queen's begging for help. He suddenly knocked the ground with the scepter in his hand. Boom! The majestic voice sounded in the empty hall. Thor also hurriedly put away the smile on his face. Because, he knows, when the ordinary father hits the ground with the eternal spear in his hand, it is the moment his father gets angry. For his father, Thor is also very scared. Thor, where's your weapon? Odin's voice was majestic. Thor hurriedly raised the storm axe in his hand, and then said, Father, isn't this my weapon? Its name is Storm Axe, and it's a piece. Boom. Before Thor could finish, Odin tapped the ground again. At this moment, even Frigga sensed Odin's anger. She took 2 steps back quickly. As Thor's mother, although she also loves her son very much, when Odin educates Thor, she generally does not come forward to stop him. Besides, Thor's appearance is indeed out of order. I'm talking about Mjolnir. It's not the rubbish in your hands. Odin became even more angry. In his tone, he was already a little impatient. But Thor obviously hasn't realized what happened to him. He raised the storm axe in his hand again, and then proudly said, Father, I exchanged this more suitable storm axe for Mjolnir. In the future, I will make the storm axe his name spread throughout the 9 realms. Hearing Thor's words, Odin stood up directly from the throne. He really can't sit still. You idiot, what did you say? Replace this rubbish with Mjolnir. The anger in Odin's eyes was gushing out. His youngest son, Loki, made trouble everywhere, and was unstable all day. And his eldest son is so stupid. There is no successor. Odin almost felt despair. At this moment, Thor didn't care about the anger on his father's face. He explained again, Father, it's not what you think. How could I suffer? I didn't just exchange for this storm axe, this cloak, but also for Mjolnir. I used a hammer and exchanged 2 pieces. Chapter 91. Thor was eventually sent to Asgard's prison. It's next door to Thor. That gorgeous cloak was torn to pieces by angry Odin. Even the storm axe has become a pool of molten iron. Thor is distraught. But there is no way. The strength of Odin God King is not comparable to the current Thor. Definitely, even if it is possible to play, so, will not make a move. Thor is reckless, but he is at least a dutiful son. Although Thor's mother, Frigga, couldn't bear Thor staying in jail and wanted to stop him, she couldn't stop rage as Odin. In Asgard prison, when he saw that his brother was locked up, Loki was so happy. This special cat is called sharing happiness and sorrow. In the past, what Thor said about sharing happiness and suffering was a lie. Subsequently, across the prison walls, Thor was attacked with vicious words for several hours. A few hours later, in a secret chamber of the Asgard palace, Odin stood quietly in front of the window, looking at the endless starry sky in the distance, seemingly worried. At this moment, the door of the chamber was knocked. Come in, Odin said lightly. Immediately afterwards, the door was pushed open. What came in was a dark-skinned man wearing armor and a little star in his eyes. This person is the patron saint of Asgard, guard of Bifrost, Heimdall. Heimdall has a pair of eyes that can see every corner of the 9 realms, called Heimdall's eyes. These eyes can be said to be unique in the 9 realms. Quite powerful, and, more importantly, as the gatekeeper of Asgard, he is still the most trusted servant of the Odin King. It is precisely because of being trusted by the Odin God King, he was able to obtain such an important position. At the moment, when Heimdall came in behind him, Odin didn't turn around. He seems to be still thinking about what if. Heimdall was not in a hurry either. He vaguely knew what Odin was worried about. After a few minutes, Odin finally turned around slowly. He looked at his most trusted servant, and then asked, Heimdall, what did you see in Midgard? Midgard is actually the Earth. It's just that the other 9 countries in the universe all call Roar Earth Midgard. Also known as Midgard, in the middle of the 9 kingdoms. When Odin finally asked himself this question, Heimdall's face also showed a trace of solemnity. Odin's own eyes are also very powerful. And you can also see what is happening on Earth in Asgard. Only, compared to Heimdall, his eyes were not very clear. After all, there is a specialization in the art industry. Many things happened in other countries, Odin would ask Heimdall. And at the moment, Heimdall thought for a while, sorted out the fire of his own thoughts, and slowly said, Since Chitauri invaded the Earth, I have been following Midgard. During this time, 3 unusual things have happened in Midgard, and these 3 things seem to be related to a human being. That human name is Lin Yu. Heimdall looked at Odin, and then continued. The first thing, Thor, is that he suddenly lost control of Mjolnir. It seems that Mjolnir took the initiative to give up Thor, and even more strangely, Thor can't take it. The Mjolnir who got up was taken away by an ordinary earthling. This person is Lin Yu. The second thing happened in a grocery store. 2 women suddenly picked up Mjolnir easily, and one of the women actually had control after picking up Mjolnir. Raiden's ability. These 2 women are Lin Yu's women. This grocery store is also the property of this earthling named Lin Yu. The last thing that scared me the most was that during this war, a terrifying existence suddenly appeared on the earth. With the power of one person, he resisted the attack of the entire Chitauri, and the ability he used was a kind of green power. This kind of energy seems extremely evil, it can bring the decedent back to life, and it is under his control. Furthermore, I have seen that the way this horrible existence appears is also from that grocery store. Upon hearing Heimdall's report, Odin sighed deeply. Today, the 9 realms are not peaceful. Warnerheim is constantly fighting. Jomheiden's giants of Jotunheim stared at him. And this kind of powerful and terrifying existence has appeared on the earth that has always been relatively calm. It seems to herald that chaos in the 9 realms is approaching. Do you know where that green guy comes from? Odin asked lightly. He had observed that guy, but even with Odin's knowledge, he had never seen an existence using this kind of ability. The evil energy, even from a distance, can make Odin feel a deep fear. If this kind of energy really spreads in the 9 realms, it will definitely cause huge amounts of panic to the entire 9 realms. Odin also thought that after discovering that guy, he would go to Earth for a while. But Odin held back. Odin is no longer the Odin of the year. The king of Odin, who fought everywhere and was extremely powerful, has long since disappeared. Odin now only wants stability, and only wants the 9 realms to be stable. A long and stable life has made Odin's courage much smaller. Heimdall shook his head and said, I only saw that before that guy appeared, there seemed to be a green light flying out of Lin Yu's grocery store. That guy should also be related to this earthling, but he came from I haven't seen it anywhere, but it's definitely not from the 9 realms. Heimdall observes this universe every day. However, even he has never seen such an evil force. Hearing the name Lin Yu again, Odin suddenly showed a hint of anger on his face. This earthling named Lin Yu is really a bit hateful. I don't know what method I used to turn my son into that way. He actually exchanged 2 pieces of rubbish for Mjolnir. This can almost be regarded as a clear grab. It's just that he was put on a code of trade. But after he did this, if he wanted to get back Mjolnir, he wouldn't make sense. This human being, I should make time to meet him on Earth. Odin said viciously. However, at this time, Odin's voice just fell off, and suddenly he felt something was wrong. The earth under his feet started to shake violently. Immediately afterwards, on the roof above the head, rocks began to fall off constantly. It's going to collapse. Odin looked dumbfounded. This palace has been standing in Asgard for hundreds of thousands of years and is extremely strong. Why did it suddenly collapse? I just said something angry, but I didn't do it. Odin and Heimdall hurriedly ran outside. But obviously, their running speed can't keep up with the speed of the collapse of the palace at all. After only a few seconds, the entire Odin palace was in ruins. Countless maids and guards were buried under the rubble. Even Odin and his queen Frigga were not spared. At the moment, on the earth, in the grocery store, suddenly the system prompt sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Ding, Odin, the king of gods, was rude to the host. His palace couldn't stand it anymore, so he decided to bury this guy who didn't understand etiquette by himself. Hearing this system prompt, Lin Yu's face changed drastically. He even jumped up directly from the chair. What's going on? Odin, God King, rude to yourself, still buried by his own palace. Lin Yu's head was completely blinded. I tried my best to prevent Odin from making trouble for myself, but I didn't expect it to happen. Do evil. Lin Yu wanted to cry without tears. He didn't think that the collapse of a palace would kill Odin. This kind of garbage mutation is at best a level 1 mutation. Not to mention level 1, even if it is level 5, I am afraid it is useless to Odin. The biggest effect is probably to hit Odin in the face. Lin Yu hurriedly pulled out a few incense sticks from the shelf, and then came to the beckoning cat and bowed his respects. There is no offerings of Sanqing and Buddha at home, there is only such a lucky cat, and only one pays respect to the lucky cat. Beckoning cat, I do not treat you badly on weekdays. You must bless me and don't let Odin realize that I did it. After dozens of minutes, all those who were buried in the ruins of the Odin palace were rescued. Fortunately, Asgard people are naturally strong. Therefore, this disaster is not causing deaths. Only a few maids were injured. Definitely, the accident also caused everyone to become disgraced. Even Odin looked rather miserable. The hair is messy and the face is covered with stains. At the moment, Odin was holding the gun of eternity, standing in front of the ruins, full of anger. Beside him, the gray-headed palace guards bowed their heads and stood together quietly, not daring to breathe. Check, give me a good investigation to see who caused the ghost. I dare to destroy my palace. Odin hit the ground fiercely with the eternal spear, roaring angrily. This is simply a great shame. And he felt that the collapse of the palace must be man-made. Asgard is not the earth, every building here has been infused with supernatural power when it was built. In any case, it is impossible to collapse the 747. Moreover, this palace was left by the gods and kings of the past, so it was destroyed for no reason, and it was an insult to the gods and kings of the past. If after I die, I see the gods and kings of the past, how should I explain to them? Odin's face was blue. After an order was given, the entire Asgard was mobilized. Not letting go of any traces of cobweb horses, vowing to find out who ruined the Odin palace. And at the moment, Lin Yu, the initiator of this incident, is leaning comfortably in his gaming chair, looking at the gains he has brought to him from this war. This time in New York, it can be said that Lin Yu has gained the most in history. Lin Yu counted one by one with his fingers. First, Sharon gained the lightning physique and almost became a female Thor, and coupled with the blessing of Mjolnir, it was even more terrifying. After that, there are also a lot of stronger or newly added mutants around him. Lucky Cat has grown to level 4, becoming more and more perverted. Your own computer is even more impressive, directly becoming a 5th-order mutant, which can summon powerful beings to descend on the earth. And with Gul'dan following himself in the game world every day, don't be too aggressive. Also, after his system was promoted to level 4, the skill of negative mutation made Lin Yu feel more and more powerful. Even Odin can suffer. Although it does not seem to cause much damage to Odin, Lin Yu felt that as long as he worked hard to improve the system level, I am afraid that even Odin would not dare to have any crooked thoughts about himself. Otherwise, just the negative mutation around him is enough for him to drink a pot. Thinking of the system, there are a lot of plot points recently obtained. Open the system panel, Lin Yu secretly said in his heart. A panel radiating blue light reappeared in Lin Yu's line of sight. Host, Lin Yu, system level. Level 4, 30 plot points are required to upgrade to the next level. After the system is upgraded to level 5, new functions and spatial mutations will be opened. Because the mutations generated by the system no longer simply affect creatures and objects, but can affect the space. Plot point. 13 points remaining. Appearance range of mutants. For any living and non-living substances that are connected with the host, the attribution of the mutants is not restricted. Negative mutation ability. Any life that speaks badly to the host or does it will be affected by negative mutation. The range of negative mutation and the probability of occurrence of each level of mutation are related to the system level, and the probability of positive mutation is the same. The next level will be promoted to any life that has evil thoughts on the host, and it will be affected by negative mutation. Probability of each level of variant. Probability of level 1 mutants, 40%. Probability of second-order mutants, 30%. Probability of third-order mutants, 20%. Probability of fourth-order mutants, 10%. Appearance probability of fifth-order mutants, 1% can be triggered in extreme cases. Probability of sixth-order variants, 0%. The biggest change in the system panel is that after this war, the plot point has become 13 points. It was 17 points short of the system being upgraded to level 5. For the 5-level system, Lin Yu is looking forward to it. First of all, after level 5, mutation will affect the space. Although I don't know what it looks like, it just sounds very strong. The second is the negative mutation ability, which is no longer limited to Lin Yu being scolded or beaten. As long as you think about Lin Yu, you will immediately taste the evil results. It's horrible. Just when Lin Yu was looking at the system changes, a phone call came in suddenly. Lin Yu answered the phone, and Nick Fury's voice came from inside. Counselor Lin, the person you asked us to find for you has basically determined his location. Nick Fury's tone was respectful. It's like respecting an elder. This makes Lin Yu feel a little unnatural. Don't use honorifics, we are not in a superior-subordinate relationship, and the age is not much different. Just feel free, Lin Yu said casually. Oh, yes, Consultant Lin. Unexpectedly, your efficiency is quite high. Where is Killian? Lin Yu asked satisfied. The efficiency of S.H.I.E.L.D. is indeed very high. Lin Yu just arranged it for less than a day, and there was a result. Sure enough, it still works. On the phone, Nick Fury's voice came again. We used satellite monitoring and found that he often appeared at a dock. I will send the location to your mobile phone. Nick Fury's voice fell, and Lin Yu quickly received a location information on his mobile phone. But, Nick Fury continued, should I find someone to bring him back? Helping others home, Nick Fury is now responsive to Lin Yu's request. Even if there is no request, take the initiative to help. Lin Yu thought for a while and said, forget it, I'll go find him by myself, don't you guys give me trouble. Lin Yu still refused Nick Fury's help. What he wanted was not Killian. It's his research. Although it is not very famous in the entire Marvel world, it is extremely abnormal. Extremis. Lin Yu is familiar with the Marvel plot and is naturally familiar with Extremis. Although the success rate after Extremis injection is very low, it is very powerful after success. The most important thing is that it can make people have terrible regeneration ability. Unless it is a single blow, it is difficult to kill a person who has been injected with Extremis. What Lin Yu wants is this feature of Extremis. Lin Yu knows exactly what he lacks most now. With an infinite mutation system, Lin Yu has no shortage of thugs at all. If he wants to kill anyone, just let the various mutants around him play. And myself, I just need to hide behind and watch the show. The only drawback is that his life-saving ability is too poor. In case of accidental injury, it would be embarrassing. However, with Extremis, this is completely made up for. So, Extremis, you must get it. Lin Yu smiled slightly and suddenly had an idea in his mind. It seems that I have to personally meet this genius scientist for a while. But, at this moment, Nick Fury's phone hasn't been hung up yet. He seems to have something to tell Lin Yu. Counselor Lin, that Nick Fury hesitation said hesitation. Say it directly. Lin Yu was not polite at all. Lin Yu felt a little strange. This Nick Fury, a person who seems to be very decisive in the movie, how to come in contact with himself, it feels a bit grind. Lin Yu doesn't know yet, Nick Fury has guessed why Gul'dan appeared. That's why the attitude towards Lin Yu is somewhat different. To other people, Nick Fury is still the decisive director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, I have a very good friend who has become the minister of the World Security Council. After he heard about you, he wanted to see you very much. I don't know if you are free, Nick Fury said slowly. Because the directors of the World Security Council performed poorly in the Battle of New York, they had a major exchange of blood. Nick Fury took the opportunity to promote his old friend. That old friend, after hearing about the existence of Lin Yu as a consultant, wanted to meet Lin Yu. Nick Fury is not very willing to refuse, so I want to ask Lin Yu's opinion first. As long as Lin Yu agrees, it is easy to handle. If he disagrees, naturally he will not force it. But, hearing this, Lin Yu's expression was stunned. Then, weakly asked on the phone, your friend, is his name Pierce? On the other side of the phone, Nick Fury was taken aback. You even know who and what that friend of mine is? Nick Fury said incredulously. About Pierce, even a few of his cronies in S.H.I.E.L.D. don't know it. He just took office, and Lin Yu already said Pierce's name. In Nick Fury's heart, he felt more and more about Lin Yu's horror. But, on the other side of the phone, Lin Yu's voice did not come again. It seems that after confirming Pierce's answer, Lin Yu suddenly became silent. Nick Fury asked cautiously again, Counselor Lin. If you don't want to see me, I will help you push it away. He is probably just curious. Nick Fury thought, Lin Yu had any holiday with his old friend Pierce. I don't know why I stopped talking when I heard that it was Pierce. In the grocery store, Lin Yu held the phone in his hand with a strange expression. There is definitely no holiday. Lin Yu has never even seen the World Security Council minister named Pierce. Oh no, he should be called Pierce, the leader of Hydra. But Lin Yu was very impressed with this guy. After all, in the Marvel world, Hydra is also a fairly well-known organization. Moreover, Pierce is also a big boss hidden in the SHIELD system. Only, in the Marvel Universe movie, Pierce doesn't have many roles. But, for Pierce, Lin Yu did not take it lightly. A guy who can run an organization like Hydra will certainly not be too simple. Moreover, Lin Yu's individual strength has not yet improved. Lin Yu will definitely not take risks with his body. But Pierce is definitely going to see you. After all, it is a major supporting role. Lin Yu still doesn't want to let go of the one plot point on him. It's okay to see it, I'm free anytime. Lin Yu said calmly. The identity of Pierce was not revealed to Nick Fury. It's not that Lin Yu doesn't want to help Nick Fury. But, at this time, even if he said it, Nick Fury would not believe it. Moreover, telling the identity of Pierce in advance is not good for Lin Yu. On the other side of the phone, Nick Fury's excited voice came. Oh, that's great, then should I ask him to see you at the grocery store or do you make time for a visit to the SHIELD headquarters? Nick Fury is very happy. This is the first time Pierce begged to do something by himself, and Nick Fury didn't want to mess up. But Nick Fury is also very smart, giving all the decision-making power to Lin Yu. No matter when or where, Nick Fury will let Lin Yu decide. Then let him come to me, I'm basically in the grocery store during this time. Lin Yu said lightly. The current SHIELD is estimated to be about to become the nest of Hydra. Lin Yu will not go there to meet a Hydra leader stupidly. Meeting in your own grocery store is the best decision. Now Lin Yu's grocery store is probably the safest place in the world. There are Wanda and Sharon on the side of force, and the tireless Lucky Cat on the weird side. Thor is here, and they are all clearly educated by Lin Yu, let alone just a Hydra leader. Nick Fury hurriedly said, okay, then I'll tell him in a moment. Immediately afterwards, Nick Fury said again, by the way, what needs SHIELD to come forward? Just say it, don't be polite. Well, I will find you if necessary. After hanging up Nick Fury's call, Lin Yu hurriedly pulled Sharon and Wanda out of the house. Don't worry about Pierce. Lin Yu now feels more and more that his strength needs to be improved. Otherwise, it may be difficult in this chaotic world. Although the system is indeed very powerful. However, living long is the kingly way. Otherwise, I can't even go to SHIELD to meet a little Hydra leader. The door of Bumblebee opened automatically as soon as he left the house. Lin Yu took the lead to sit in the driver's seat. Then, the two women got into the car one after another. At the moment, the door was not closed yet, Erha suddenly got in from the door on Lin Yu's side. It was wagging its tail, as if to please Lin Yu. But Lin Yu is not one of those women with big breasts and no brains. He can't walk when he sees a cute pet dog. One kick kicked Erha down. Honestly, stay at home, who will look after the house after all gone out? Just when Lin Yu set off with the two women, heading to the location of the pier provided by Nick Fury. At the moment, in an abandoned warehouse at that pier, Killian, the scientist Lin Yu was looking for, seemed to be carrying out some strange experiment. Moreover, it is still a human experiment. The object of the experiment turned out to be myself. Killian, do you really want to inject yourself with Extremis, which is not completely perfect? Beside Killian, a woman with brown hair asked worriedly. This woman is the supporting actress in the third Iron Man, Dr. Maya Hansen. She is a biologist and one of Killian's partners. Killian at the moment has taken off his shirt, his eyes are quite calm, and he doesn't seem to be nervous because of the upcoming Extremis injection. I'm ready. Science experiments always involve sacrifices, don't they? Killian said with a smile. Maya Hansen obviously didn't want Killian to do this. She frowned and said again, actually, you don't need to worry. We can do animal experiments first. After the safety is completely guaranteed, it is not too late to do human experiments. Extremis has just been successfully studied. According to Maya Hansen's research, this virus has been determined to help humans evolve. However, it is very imperfect. If the body and Extremis have a rejection reaction, the human body will instantly become hot until it explodes. Definitely, even if integrate succeeds, it will not be done once and for all. Need to be injected every once in a while to ensure the survival of the virus. It is a great risky behavior to inject directly into the body now. Therefore, Maya Hansen wanted to stop Killian injection. But Killian didn't know why, so he had to inject himself. Moreover, it was calm, not like a whim. Killian smiled slightly and said, "It doesn't matter, isn't there you still? I believe you will make me integrate successful." Maya Hansen still wanted to persuade, but Killian had already raised his arm in front of Maya Hansen. "Come on, if I can succeed, I will be the pioneer of human evolution." In his heart, he was already impatient. Since he was rejected by Tony Stark more than 10 years ago, and then committed suicide by jumping off the building without success, he has been living in the dark. It's like a ghost. He has had enough of such a life. He wants success, wants revenge. In the past 10 years, Killian has been paying attention to Tony Stark's movements in addition to studying Extremis. As Tony Stark admitted that he was Iron Man, and until the Battle of New York, his steel battle suit became stronger and stronger, Killian also felt a sense of urgency in his heart. He doesn't want to wait any longer. Wait any longer, Tony Stark's steel battle suit technology will become stronger and stronger. Definitely, if you succeed, you can also use Extremis to arm a terrifying team. Until then, I will control the whole world. No longer need to look at other people's faces, no longer need to live in the dark. Inject it. Killian was almost crazy inside. But his expression remained calm as before. He even gave Maya Hansen an encouraging look. But just as Maya Hansen plucked up the courage to inject Extremis into Killian, there was a sudden roar from the car engine outside. It seems that a sports car came to the outside of this abandoned warehouse. Maya Hansen's hand stopped suddenly. Killian's face also showed a trace of confusion. This abandoned warehouse is their secret laboratory. Except for a few bodyguards and themselves, no one knows where it is. So high profile, who will come here in a sports car? Is it possible, is it Tony Stark? Killian has been following Tony Stark all these years, so he knows that he likes driving sports cars the most. There was a sudden shock in his heart. Does Tony know that he is ready to deal with him? Wrong, he could not know. I have always been so low-key, and I have never done anything to him before. He has no strong strength. He would never know that he was here. He may not even know who he is. So, who is it? 7. Go out and see who it is, Killian said to the bodyguard in the room outside. Killian had several bodyguards under him. All veterans. And these people are their loyal supporters. In the future, Killian also plans to inject them with Extremis. Under Killian's orders, a bald man, with 2 of his men, pushed the door from the outside room and walked out. There are many rooms in this warehouse. Killian and Maya Hansen's laboratory are in the innermost room. The outside room is where the bodyguards stay. Crack. The door of warehouse was pushed open. Several bodyguards, armed with guns, went out. Killian and Maya Hansen hurriedly hid the Extremis sample in the laboratory. This Extremis sample is very precious. It takes a long time for them to develop one. So, to be cautious, they first hid the Extremis samples in the safe in the corner of the warehouse. Outside the warehouse, the bright yellow Camaro, a handsome and elegant man, stopped directly not far from the warehouse door. Sharon took the lead and got out of the car with a hammer. Then, Wanda in a red dress. Finally, Lin Yu is sitting in the main driver's seat. At this moment, the 2 women took 2 steps back slowly and came behind Lin Yu. One left and one right. Like 2 bodyguards. Compared with the 3 sturdy men on the opposite side, these 2 female bodyguards are indeed very cool. Even the 3 bodyguards who just came out of the warehouse were slightly taken aback when they saw the combination of the 3. There seems to be some love. But they are still very cautious. Stop, what do you guys do? Killian's first thug, Siwen, drank coldly. The 3 men stood on the way of Lin Yu and others, staring at it. When Lin Yu got out of the car, he noticed the weapons in the hands of the 3. 2 rifles and 1 pistol. Lin Yu's expression remained unchanged, and he whispered to the 2 women behind him, let them stop and stop. Lin Yu's purpose is clear. It's Killian. Lin Yu has no interest at all for this kind of cough. This kind of guy has appeared many times in the Iron Man 3 plot. But in the judgment of the system, even a major supporting role is not counted. What is it for? Do you trouble yourself? Lin Yu just finished speaking. The 2 women shot in an instant. Even a little reaction time was not set aside for Seven and the others. The few people hadn't understood what Lin Yu meant. They saw a hammer and a red light suddenly magnified in their eyes. There was glare of thunder and lightning on the hammer. Several people were shocked instantly. Whether it is the hammer or the red light, it is nothing like science can explain. Several people hurriedly wanted to raise their guns. But it was too late. Mjolnir is extremely fast. And that red light is faster. As soon as they met, the 3 of them were instantly knocked into the air by Wanda's attack. Moreover, while in midair, the lightning above Mjolnir hit the bodies of the 3 people one after another. Before landing, the 3 bodyguards rolled their eyes and foamed at the mouth, unconscious. Boom boom. 3 successive landing sounds sounded. In front of him, there were no more obstacles. Lin Yu didn't look back, but a comfortable smile appeared on his face. It's nice to have Wanda and Sharon here. Go to the hall and go to the kitchen. He can also occasionally appear as a bodyguard, which is almost all around. The sound of 3 heavy objects landing also aroused the alertness of Killian and Maya Hansen in the warehouse. The 2 hurriedly found a corner and hid. And Killian quietly took a pistol. After a few seconds, Lin Yu gently pushed the door and finally appeared in this abandoned warehouse. Lin Yu looked around and instantly locked the innermost room. The room is full of laboratory equipment. It would be strange if Killian wasn't there. Lin Yu swaggered towards the laboratory inside. Wanda and Sharon followed closely behind. Compared with Lin Yu's appearance, the 2 women looked a little cautious. But the reason they are cautious is not because of themselves, but because of Lin Yu. Both Wanda and Sharon have strong self-insurance ability. It seems that among the 3, only Lin Yu is an ordinary person. Until now, Lin Yu has not mentioned his infinite mutation system to the 2 of them. Regarding various strange events, as well as Sharon's body mutation, Lin Yu shunned it to his own grocery store. Say everything is because of this strange grocery store. So, the 2 women were very careful to protect Lin Yu. Finally, Lin Yu, the 3 people, came to the innermost room of the warehouse. Come out, Killian, I know you are here. Lin Yu said directly with a smile. He had already seen that the tube of a syringe next to it was still moving slowly. It means that the people in this room were still using the syringe just now. I heard Lin Yu call out his name directly. Killian finally couldn't hide. He raised his pistol and slowly stood up from behind a table. And at the moment, seeing that Killian was holding a gun at Lin Yu, the 2 women hurriedly stood in front of Lin Yu. Stand up for it. Without Lin Yu's order, they did not take action. However, Lin Yu's protection has been tightly closed. At this moment, Maya Hansen, who was hiding by the side, also stood up. Ding! Congratulations to the host for first meeting with Dr. Aldrezi, the core supporting role of the Marvel world, Dr. Killian, and earning 1 plot point. Ding! Congratulations to the host for first meeting Dr. Maya Hansen, the core supporting actor in the Marvel world, and earning 1 plot point. 2 consecutive system prompts sounded in Lin Yu's mind. Lin Yu's face also showed an excited smile. Did not expect. There was unexpected gain. The other main character in Iron Man 3, Maya Hansen, is also here. It's really nowhere to find a place to break through the iron shoes, and it is all effortless to get it. 2 points of plot point to hand. The total plot point has also reached 15 points. Who are you, why do you know my name, and how did you find here? Killian looked solemn and asked several questions in one go. Holding the pistol in his hand, aiming at the 3 outsiders, Killian's heart was slightly settled. At this moment, Lin Yu didn't answer in a hurry. Gently patted the shoulders of the 2 women, and then said, "It's okay, he can't hurt me." After hearing Lin Yu's words, the 2 women slowly stepped aside Zhao Li's. But they did not relax their vigilance. After all, the opponent is still holding a gun. At this time, Lin Yu smiled lightly, and then said, "Don't be excited, don't be afraid, I'm not here to find something, but there is a cooperation project, I want to talk to you. Lin Yu's attitude is very sincere. This makes Killian even more puzzled. What kind of cooperation project? Killian asked coldly without putting down the pistol in his hand. Killian at this time is not as unhurried as in Iron Man 3. Because, at the moment, he has not injected Extremis yet. Therefore, the mentality has not changed much. Only after being injected with Extremis did he become extremely arrogant and ambitious. Lin Yu smiled again and said faintly, apart from Extremis, there seems to be nothing in your body that can attract me. As soon as Lin Yu's words were uttered, Killian's face changed drastically. Even Maya Hansen on the side was surprised. Extremis is their biggest secret. And, never said it to anyone else. How did the young man in front of me know? Killian was shocked. But, immediately afterwards. But he quickly returned to calm. As a character like a table male, although he is not strong enough now, he has already revealed the essence of the table male. He tried to keep the calm on his face. Then he said, how do you want to cooperate? Killian didn't want to cooperate. After all, Extremis research has passed the most critical moment. At this time, he doesn't want to share the fruits of his labor with others. He is just a postponement and wants to see what Lin Yu's purpose is. Lin Yu smiled. Didn't he have another purpose? Cooperation. This time I came to grab it. I'll pay $10 to buy out your Extremis patent, how about it? Lin Yu said with a smile. When Lin Yu said this, Killian suddenly understood. These few people are here to look for things. A cold look gradually appeared in his eyes. Dare to ask me, you are looking for death. Killian was angry at the gall, and he was about to pull the trigger with his finger. Although he didn't know what happened to the few bodyguards outside, but now he had weapons in his hand, and the other three didn't even have a pistol. How can this opportunity be missed? Ding, Aldrezi Killian keeps talking and threatening the host. His pistol hates him and Killian, and actively changes his internal structure to become a bubble gun. There was a trace of healing on Killian's face. Wanda and Sharon became nervous immediately. One raised Mjolnir, a dress danced without wind, and a red light appeared on his body. Two people, it seems that they are about to make a move right away. At this moment, Lin Yu hurriedly stopped the action of the two. Don't shoot, Lin Yu shouted softly. Killian is considered a core supporting role, although Lin Yu has already got that little plot point on him. But, the plot points he can provide are more than that. Currently, the story of Iron Man 3 has not yet appeared. Killian is still very useful. Lin Yu doesn't want to kill him here now. Lin Yu's words caused Wanda and Sharon to pause immediately. Although they all obeyed Lin Yu's words, they were still nervously protected in front of Lin Yu. At this time, a strange smile suddenly appeared on Killian's face. He shot decisively. As a generation of heroes, you will never be soft when you should make a move. Aside, when Maya Hansen saw Killian's expression, she guessed what would happen. She hurriedly shouted roar loudly, don't shoot. Although Maya Hansen has been working with Killian, her essence is not bad. Her goal is not revenge either. It's just for the sake of completing my own research. Sharon and Wanda also became nervous when they heard Maya Hansen's shout and then saw Killian's expression. They are ready to shoot. Even if Lin Yu stops, they must protect Lin Yu's safety as soon as possible. At this moment, Killian's fingers finally pressed the trigger on the pistol. His face also showed a mad look. Whoever dares to peep into his Extremis, no matter who it is, no matter what identity, must die. Give me to die, Killian roared, squeezing the trigger on the pistol frantically. He wants to directly sieve the three people opposite. Although there are still two women, he has no intention of pitying Shangyu at all. However, when Killian pressed the trigger frantically, in the whole room, there was still only his crazy roar. The imaginary sound of fire did not sound. Killian was stunned. The three women also stood still on the spot. Wanda and Sharon did not make any more moves. Everyone's eyes were attracted by the pistol in Killian's hand, including Killian himself. At the moment, at the position of the muzzle of his pistol, a big soap bubble was slowly spit out. 1, 2, 3. Killian spit out a few bubbles after a few triggers. Killian was dumbfounded. The three women are also dumbfounded. What's happening here? Why is it so weird? Is this Killian crazy? Attacking others with a bubble gun. It's still big roar yelling, it seems that he can really fight Deadman. And this time, Killian suddenly seemed to be frightened, and squatted on the ground in a panic. His eyes were full of horror. With both hands trembling, he held the pistol in front of him. Looked carefully at it suspiciously. Others might think that he is holding a bubble gun that looks like a pistol. But he knew it very well himself. My pistol is definitely not a bubble gun. He even used it to kill people before. It's just that Maya Hansen doesn't know. But the pistol was good before, but after pulling the trigger, a few bubbles were shot. What's happening here? Someone dropped the package for himself. Impossible, I keep my pistol next to my body, how could someone silently drop it? CDAH. Is it possible? What kind of supernatural incident did you encounter? At this moment, Lin Yu also gently pushed away Wanda and Sharon who were in front of him, and walked forward slowly. But although Wanda and Sharon were weird and shocked with Killian's performance, the two of them hurriedly followed. Protecting Lin Yu from harm is still their most important thing. A few steps, Lin Yu came to Killian's face. Lin Yu slowly squatted down, then looked at Killian who was still a little frightened, and said, "Now, tell me where Extremis is." Killian at the moment, although he hasn't recovered from the weird situation of Gang O. But when Lin Yu asked directly where Extremis was, his face changed drastically again. Isn't it a good cooperation? How did it become a direct grab? Extremis, it hasn't been developed yet, it's just an idea between me and Maya Hansen. Killian said stiffly. Extremis is his greatest support. It is also the most important bargaining chip for whether he can avenge Tony Stark. If there is no Extremis, then he can still only be the building ant hiding in the dark. Lin Yu was stunned for a moment. You still have a stiff mouth. Lin Yu frowned, turned his head, looked at younger sister Wanda, and said, "Wanda, break his arm." Hearing Lin Yu's order, the one who was most surprised was not Wanda, but Sharon. Her face changed. In her impression, Wanda is just a little willful girl. Lin Yu has always spoiled her. What's the situation now? Let Wanda do this kind of thing. Although Sharon knew that Wanda was very strong, she couldn't let a little girl do such terrible things. This kind of breaking someone's arm is much more cruel than the 3 bodyguards who just shot stunned. Or, let me do it. Sharon asked to take action. As a high-level agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., she is also very good at doing this kind of things. Maya Hansen was even more surprised than Sharon. As a bystander, she was stunned by the behavior of these 3 people. That man was protected by 2 women from the beginning. Now, asked a little girl to break someone else's arm. I really don't know if this is cruel to Killian or cruel to that little girl. This kind of man is really amazing. Immediately afterwards, even more incredible things happened. The other woman next to me took the initiative to ask Mew. What's going on? With a broken arm, do you still want to grab it? What kind of combination are these 3 people? But at this moment, Wanda suddenly laughed and hurriedly shot. She didn't want Sharon to steal her limelight. And Sharon guessed one thing wrong. That is, Wanda has never been what Sharon thought. She usually just likes to fool around. Although I like nonsense, but never really willful. Therefore, Lin Yu has always spoiled Wanda. And the real Wanda is the Wanda who lives with Lin Yu in the orphanage, and is not afraid of heaven and earth. When in the orphanage, Wanda and Lin Yu never fear any fights. Although both Wanda and Lin Yu look thinner. But the fight started, but it was crazier than anyone else. It is impossible for a person like Sharon who has received a good education since childhood to know what kind of orphanage is almost under the jurisdiction of the gang. If you really count with your fingers, Wanda would rather have broken arms or fingers. There are 7 or 8 if there are not 10, right? Let me come. Wanda hurried to the front. She didn't want Sharon to steal the limelight. At the moment, Lin Yu also slowly got up and gave way to Wanda. Wanda rolled her sleeves and walked forward. This scene reminded Lin Yu of the orphanage. There was also a knowing smile on his face. But it is a little different from before. Wanda didn't get started directly. Instead, he stood in front of Killian, stretched out a hand, pointed at the opponent's body, and the red light on his body began to flicker. Actually, in Killian's heart, he was a bit disdainful of Wanda. A girl who looks so thin, she seems to be young, and she wants to break her arm. It's a fantasy. I'm afraid that even if she doesn't move, she can't twist her arm. But, in the next scene, Killian's heart was instantly cold. His eyes were also round. It seemed to have seen something extremely terrifying. At the moment, Wanda didn't grab Killian's arm directly with his hands. Instead, he stood at a distance of 2 or 3 meters in front of him and stretched out a hand. Then, a red light flashed on her hand. The power of Scarlet Witch broke out in an instant. Killian's body completely lost control, and was directly pulled into the air by the red light. He was stunned, struggling in panic. However, it is of no use at all. You know, Wanda's power, even against Thanos, can have the upper hand. Not to mention a weak human being. And he is still a human being who is obsessed with research all year round and lacks exercise. At this time, a cruel smile appeared on Wanda's face. She also recalled what happened in the orphanage back then. At that time, it was usually the old man who controlled the enemy, and she was responsible for teaching the enemy a lesson. And now, today is different. You can solve any enemy by yourself. Wanda's other hand suddenly stretched forward. Grab it out of thin air, then twist it. A scream suddenly resounded throughout the warehouse. I saw that one of Killian's arms suddenly became bent backwards. Obviously it has been broken. And, the most terrifying thing is that the place to break is not the position of the joint, but the bones of the forearm. Wanda broke the forearm bone directly. That kind of pain made Killian faint almost instantly. This scene is quite cruel. Even Sharon, who was standing by, felt a little rash. As for Maya Hansen on the other side, he couldn't stand it anymore. She was so scared that she covered her eyes. Until now, she really understood that these 2 women and 1 man are not good. It is really the image of the other party, which is too deceptive. 2 seemingly weak girls, and a young Asian youth who is also a little thin, seem not at all threatening. However, what they did was completely inconsistent with their image. In addition, Maya Hansen was originally just a scientist, and he had never seen a bit of blood. Naturally, he was very scared. And at the moment, Killian is even worse. He is still suspended in the air under the control of Wanda. Can't move at all. The only thing that can move in his body is his head. The expression on his face has been completely distorted. Even the gums bite out blood. In his heart, there was not only fear, but also shock. The red things on Wanda are really appalling. But there was also a glimmer of hope in Killian's heart. For him, breaking an arm is not a big psychological burden except for the pain. Because he knew that if he took Extremis, this kind of injury would heal instantly. So, in his heart, there is still faith supporting him. At the moment, Lin Yu walked forward 2 steps slowly again, raised his head and looked at Killian in midair. How about it? Let's talk about it now. Lin Yu asked calmly. It was like a demon whispering in the ear. But, what surprised Lin Yu was, Killian is not even ready to say it. He closed his mouth tightly, and the muscles on his face were still trembling from the pain. However, he still said nothing. This guy is a stubborn stubble. Lin Yu frowned slightly. Unexpectedly, Killian could be so resistant. It's a ruthless person. Wanda, break his other hand. Lin Yu faintly ordered again. Hearing these words, Killian's eyes clearly showed extreme horror. But he still chose to keep his mouth shut. Although Lin Yu has watched all Marvel movies, he also knows some of Killian's experiences. However, without personal experience, it is impossible to know what kind of hatred Killian is suppressing in his heart. He even committed suicide in the first place. For a person who dares to commit suicide, it is really nothing to break an arm. And he is not afraid of death. Because, without Extremis, he would not be able to avenge Tony Stark. If you can't get revenge, it's better to die. So, he was able to remain silent until now. But, just when Wanda was about to make another shot, Maya Hansen on the side couldn't stand it anymore. She really couldn't stand her companion being treated like this. It's a woman's nature to be unbearable. Especially she is a weak woman who hasn't seen too many cruelty. I tell you where you are, don't hurt her anymore. Maya Hansen cried out, crying slightly. She was really scared. These people are too cruel. If you don't agree, you will break your arm. It's simply the devil. Moreover, that little girl is really terrifying. He was able to control Killian's body to fly. It's not human. Maya Hansen could no longer bear this kind of suffering. Hearing Maya Hansen's voice, Lin Yu suddenly smiled. Woman, Killian has been carried until now, I didn't expect that you can't stand it anymore. The man with his broken arm didn't say a word. You, the Watcher, unexpectedly surrendered. Hey, forget it, don't want to. Lin Yu smiled and stopped thinking about all the messy things. At this time, you should not feel uncomfortable yourself. The most uncomfortable one should be Killian. Really. After hearing Maya Hansen's words, Killian's mouth, which had been tightly closed, finally began to yell. No, don't tell them, don't. Killian gaped. At this moment, Lin Yu has slowly walked in front of Maya Hansen. The smile on Lin Yu's face looked like a devil's smile to Maya Hansen. Quite scary. And what Lin Yu said is just as scary. Now, I have changed my mind. If you don't tell me, I will break his neck immediately instead of his arm. Lin Yu said slowly. Maya Hansen was a little shaken by Killian's words, but when Lin Yu said this, she surrendered instantly. She pointed to a corner of the laboratory in horror, and then said, Extremis is behind that wall, in the safe. After saying this, Maya Hansen slumped directly to the ground. Facing Lin Yu, she felt like she was negotiating with the devil. Only, he has no bargaining power at all. After hearing Maya Hansen's words, Killian seemed to be a frustrated ball, completely losing his previous stubborn appearance. And at the moment, Lin Yu has slowly reached the position pointed by Maya Hansen. Lin Yu's face suddenly showed a suddenly realized expression. It turned out that there was a secret door here. If you don't look carefully, you can't tell at all that the walls of this place turned out to be hidden doors. Lin Yu opened the secret door, and a safe was immediately exposed. Lin Yu turned his head, looked at Maya Hansen again, and asked, how much is the password? Maya Hansen, who asked this sentence, was taken aback. She actually shook her head and slowly said, I don't know the password. Only he knows the password for this safe. Lin Yu was happy. After doing it for a long time, I still have to let Killian speak. Lin Yu squatted directly next to the safe, and calmly said to Killian, let's talk, the safe has been found, it's useless to keep the password. But, at the moment, after hearing Lin Yu's words, Killian suddenly laughed out loud. His appearance regained his arrogance again. Ha 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 ha, I won't tell you the password. If you want to know the password, let me down and discuss it. Moreover, this safe has a self-destructing device. If the password is entered 3 times incorrectly, it will automatically explode and you will not get it. Extremis. Lin Yu frowned when he heard these words. This Killian is really. At this time, Killian said arrogantly, I have changed my mind now. Even if I let me down, I won't tell you the password. If you want to know the password, you just kneel in front of me and beg me. Killian was indeed a little perverted in his heart. The long-term depression has made his heart distorted. At this time, he was still learning Lin Yu's way of speaking. Have you changed your mind? Lin Yu suddenly became happy. Because, just as Killian said these words, Lin Yu's mind also immediately sounded the system prompt. Ding, Aldrezi. Killian spoke rudely to the host and spoke insults. He couldn't stand his safe anymore. He voluntarily gave up the password set by his disdainful person and restored the factory settings. The initial password. Lin Yu was so happy. Killian's operation is okay. Originally, I really had nothing to do with this safe. If it is the same as what he said, there is a self-destructing device inside, then it will be troublesome. I'm afraid, even Wanda can't open this safe easily. But, Killian actually let himself kneel down. Isn't this just scolding yourself? Good scolding. Lin Yu didn't care about Killian's words at all. Turning around, he directly pressed the password button on the safe. 750666. Killian was terrified. At the moment, he was already controlled by Wanda and turned around. He saw Lin Yu's operation with his own eyes. And he can see that Lin Yu's fingers have not changed places. Jing Ran has always been there. The number 6. Are you crazy? There are only 3 chances in total. If all of them are wrong, then I am afraid that everyone will not get those Extremis. During this time, Killian and Maya Hansen produced 3 Extremis in total. The 3 are all virus stocks. Only through these virus stocks, they can more conveniently carry out the next research. Increase the number of Extremis by cultivating replication. And if they don't have these original liquids, then they have to start from scratch. In that case, it is estimated that it will take several years to succeed again. So, this is the reason why Killian doesn't want to give Lin Yu those stock solutions. He didn't want to wait a few more years. Tony Stark's strength will continue to grow stronger. He didn't want to be a few years later, even if he used Extremis, he would not be Tony's opponent. 66,666. In Killian's puzzled and horrified gaze, Lin Yu finally finished 86s. Then, a strange scene appeared. Killian looks silly. After Lin Yu finished the string of numbers, 6 inches, the small light on the safe turned green. Green means that the password lock is opened. What's the situation? What the hell? When did the password become 86? Killian's eyes widened, his face full of incredible. At the moment, he seemed to have forgotten the pain in his arm. The scene before him was beyond the limit of his imagination. It's not just the scene in front of me. Ever since Lin Yu and his gang came here, everything that has happened is extremely weird. First of all, his pistol, after pulling the trigger, it hit soap bubbles. Then the woman was able to use some weird energy to control her body to fly into the sky, and even broke her arm out of thin air. Finally, that man blindly pressed 86s on his safe. And the safe was opened. Especially meow, how could the password be 86? No matter how big your heart is, it is impossible to set such a stupid password. Killian, who has almost been tortured, almost doesn't believe in science. He really didn't know whether he was dreaming or the real world. At the moment, Lin Yu smiled slightly, gently opened the door of the safe. Inside, 3 transparent glass bottles were placed quietly. In every glass bottle, there is some light blue liquid glowing. These should be Extremis. The corners of Lin Yu's mouth curled up slightly. But, at this time, suddenly some slight footsteps came in the direction of the warehouse entrance. It seems that someone is coming. Everyone looked at the door of warehouse in an instant. Even Lin Yu frowned and retracted his hand that was about to get Extremis. Who is it? Who is here at this time? But, when they saw the figure at the door, everyone was stunned. A bald head with a green complexion, white foam on the corners of his mouth, and a rifle in his hand, appeared in the eyes of everyone. That guy, it is Killian's servant who was knocked out by Wanda and Sharon just now. Lin Yu was taken aback for a moment. He deserved to be called Siwen, he was able to resist. The lightning on Sharon's hammer was absolutely strong, but he recovered so quickly after being struck by those lightning. Physical fitness is indeed strong. At this moment, a look of surprise suddenly appeared on Killian's face. My own subordinates are still alive. And now, the other woman with super ability was controlling herself, and it seemed that she hadn't had time to vacate her hands. That weird man was also squatting next to the safe. At this time, the appearance of Siwen is definitely his best hope for a comeback today. Shoot, shoot, Killian yelled again. He was already desperate. Even if he was shot, he would fight for it. In case you didn't die directly, you can inject Extremis and recover as before. But the other party may not be so lucky. Those 2 women, standing on the outermost side, would definitely be hit the first time. Hurry up and shoot. Killian was still yelling frantically. Siwen at the door actually felt a little dizzy in his head. After all, the electric current just now is really strong. But, after hearing Killian's command, he still resisted the discomfort in his head and raised the rifle in his hand. Seeing Seven's movements, Killian's face was already showing a cruel smile. He has already thought about it. If he doesn't die, he must torture the 3 Lin Yu. You must not let these demons feel better. At this moment, Killian suddenly felt that the red energy that controlled him suddenly disappeared. His body also fell from midair. Obviously, the girl in the red dress was about to change her head to deal with Siwen. But, can you make it? Although Killian fell to the ground, his eyes were fixed on the front image. He wants to witness himself turning the situation around. However, at the moment, there was a flower in front of his eyes. There seems to be a dazzling light passing in front of you. It's a hammer. Killian didn't notice the other woman among the 3. Compared with the other 2 people, the girl looked a little low-key. She just said a word when the man ordered the little girl in red to remove one of her arms. There was no more movement after that. It seems that she is just an ordinary person. But, at the moment, Killian found out that he was so wrong. That woman actually threw a hammer. The speed is outrageous. Even his gaze can't keep up with the speed of that hammer. And, even more terrifying is, whether it was the hammer or the woman's body, extremely dazzling lightning flashed. Is that human being? Killian feels that his head is not working well. It turns out that this girl who seems to be the most ordinary of the three is not an ordinary person. And, it looks more awesome and more domineering. Sparkling and thundering, as if the gods descended from the earth. Boom, there was a violent crash. Seven disappeared directly into the night. I don't know how far it flew out. After a few seconds. In the horrified gaze of Killian and Maya Hansen, the hammer that flashed with thunder actually flew back again. Then Sharon gently took it in his hand. As if nothing happened. It seems that Siwen has never appeared before. Killian was dumbfounded. I hope to come quickly, but go faster. At this moment. After experiencing these things, Killian suddenly felt that the Extremis that he had studied for decades was not good anymore. I am afraid that with the powerful abilities of these two women, it is estimated that even if they are injected with Extremis, they are definitely not their opponents. Why is this world like this? Killian muttered to herself, as if she couldn't accept it for a while. No one heard Killian's words. Definitely, even if you hear it, no one cares. He is just a tragic loser. At least, after Lin Yu came, he was destined to be a loser. At the moment, after solving the sudden appearance of the enemy, the warehouse became quiet again. Killian, who was limp on the ground, didn't have any thoughts to resist either. Although Wanda no longer controlled him. But, after seeing the power of these two women, Killian had a thorough understanding of reality. Even if he was injected with Extremis, he would not be their opponent. What's more, I am just an ordinary person now. At the moment. Lin Yu also reached out to the bottle of Extremis in the safe again. When Lin Yu's hand just touched the bottle, the sound of the system really rang again in time. Lin Yu's infinite mutation system, although not capable of making Lin Yu stronger, has never let Lin Yu down. Whatever is needed, basically what will come. It's almost like being able to see through Lin Yu's thoughts. Ding, the Extremis medicine in your hand feels a bit of warmth, and you decide to perfect your shortcomings and become Extremis in perfect form. After the injection, it is 100% integrated successfully, without side effects, without any adverse reactions, strengthening regeneration ability, strengthening physique enhancing ability. When Lin Yu took out a bottle of desperate potion from the safe. That bottle of Extremis potion has become the perfect version of Extremity potion. Quite magical. Lin Yu couldn't help but go get the remaining 2 bottles again. But, the remaining 2 bottles did not mutate anymore. Lin Yu shook his head slightly, guessing in his mind that it might be because the system felt that he only needed 1 bottle, and then the remaining 2 bottles did not mutate. But, Lin Yu really only needs 1 bottle. Wanda and Sharon now each have their own path. They don't need desperate potions. All you need is yourself. Lin Yu took this bottle of desperate potion and slowly stood up. Then, he looked at Maya Hansen, who was squatting on the side, with a smile on his lips. Lin Yu has always done everything without procrastination. When it's time to run, I will definitely be the first to run. It should be hidden, and it must be hidden strictly. It's time to get an injection, just get an injection as soon as possible. Especially the elixir potion in his hand, has mutated into a perfect elixir potion. At the moment, in Lin Yu's sight, a line of small characters has appeared above this bottle of desperate potion. Name, Potion of Despair. Variation Direction. Perfection, Enhancement, no side effects. Variation Level. Level 4. Special Circumstances. No special circumstances, it is the best choice to inject it as soon as possible. Lin Yu smiled and came directly to Maya Hansen's side. Seeing Lin Yu walking towards him directly, Maya Hansen, who was already a little frightened, shrank back in a hurry. But, the laboratory is just this big. She is already in the corner. Even if I go back, I can't go back far. What do you want to do? Don't come over. Maya Hansen shouted in horror. It's like what Lin Yu wants to do to her. Pity. Lin Yu has no personal interest in her at all. Although her face looks good and her figure is good, she and Tony had a very good relationship back then. It's not that Lin Yu doesn't want to offend Tony. Tony doesn't have that much energy yet. Lin Yu is simply not interested. Get up, Lin Yu said lightly. Maya Hansen is scared. Lin Yu is like a real devil. But she still had to stand up obediently, although she was still trembling slightly. But what Lin Yu said next made her stunned for an instant. Come, help me inject this bottle of desperate potion, Lin Yu said with a smile. Maya Hansen didn't react for a while. What the hell? Injection? Who? You, what are you talking about? Maya Hansen thought Lin Yu was joking. But Lin Yu's tone and expression didn't seem to be a joke at all. I said give me an injection of this bottle of desperate potion. Hold on, don't talk nonsense. Lin Yu's face suddenly became colder. Maya Hansen rushed to the side of the syringe in a hurried 3 or 2 steps. It just so happened that when Killian wanted to inject just now, he had already prepared all the equipment. Just put the medicine in, and then the needle directly. Lin Yu did not have any hesitation, and directly handed Maya Hansen the Extremis potion in his hand, and then stood quietly to the side. At this moment, seeing Lin Yu's behavior, Wanda and Sharon both had some doubts in their hearts. Although Lin Yu told them that there is a medicine Lin Yu needs. But it didn't say that the injection was done directly on the spot. It seems that Lin Yu's behavior is a bit reckless. However, the two did not say anything. They have always unconditionally supported Lin Yu's decision. And at the moment, on the side of Killian, there was an imperceptible smile on his face. His eyes are also brighter than before. Only, he hides it well. He knows this thing best, elixir of despair. Even Maya Hansen is not as thorough as he understands. The current desperate potion has a very big drawback. That is, after the injection, it is not done once and for all. It must be injected every once in a while. If you stop, your body will experience a phenomenon of continuous high temperature. In the end, it will even explode directly on the spot. Killian dared to inject directly because he and Maya Hansen were able to quickly copy more of the Extremis potion through these Extremis potion stock solutions. When the time comes, you can just inject it once in a while. But Lin Yu is different. If he wants to inject again after the injection, he must use himself and Maya Hansen to create more desperate potions. It can't be made by others. Thus, it is equivalent to indirectly controlling his life in his own hands. When the time comes, are you still afraid that he will not listen to yourself? Killian was already laughing in his heart. The weirdness of Lin Yu and the strength of the two women around him were all seen in Killian's eyes. If Lin Yu was controlled by himself, wouldn't these two women be able to sacrifice their lives for themselves? Killian's heart became more and more excited. With the help of these two women, there is hope for revenge. Even the bigger plan my heart can be implemented. But, although Killian was happy, his face still remained calm. He even lowered his head quietly, for fear that others would see his expression. But, at the moment, after putting the elixir potion on the syringe, Maya Hansen's face showed a hint of hesitation. Her mind is indeed not bad. Even facing the devil like Lin Yu, she still couldn't help but reminded, these desperate medicines are not finished products. After injection, there will be great risks. I think I need to remind you. Lin Yu was slightly taken aback when he heard Maya Hansen's words. He didn't expect that this Maya Hansen would remind himself. It's really possible. And Killian, when he heard these words, he started to scold in an instant. He hates Maya Hansen so much. This is simply a pig teammate. Do not. After I have completely perfected Extremis, I will kill this woman who has not succeeded but failed. Killian was very anxious. However, he dared not say anything. I can only use the light from the corner of my eye to keep tightly on Lin Yu, who is about to be injected. Except for Killian, others are more anxious. That is Wanda and Sharon. Killian is afraid that Lin Yu will not inject. And the two women are worried. Brother, since it's dangerous, don't inject this thing first. Boss, why don't you think about it again? The two women said anxiously. I heard the worry of the two women. Lin Yu turned his head and looked at Wanda and Sharon. And there was a slight smile on his face. Said, it's okay, don't worry, my body is very good, no problem. Lin Yu is very confident. Definitely confident, because this bottle of Extremis potion has no side effects at all. You are a fool if you don't inject early, soothed Wanda and Sharon, turned their heads, and looked at Maya Hansen again. His face became cold again. Hurry up, don't ink. Maya Hansen has everything ready. But it hasn't been pierced for a long time. Do you want to fix you on this bed, and do you want to bite something in your mouth? It may be very painful. Maya Hansen said weakly. Although it is the first time to inject Extremis into humans, they have already tested it on animals. Moreover, even if there is no experiment, Maya Hansen also knows this Extremis integrate process. It's absolutely painful. After Extremis enters the body, it will quickly remodel the entire body's cells. It is equivalent to shredding every part of the body and then recombining it. It must be quite painful. She was a little afraid that after Lin Yu was injected, she would feel unhappy. Maya Hansen is also kind. However, Lin Yu is obviously not ready to appreciate it. Don't talk nonsense, just inject. Lin Yu said lightly. Maya Hansen seemed to sigh slightly, and then decisively stopped hesitation. It hit Lin Yu's arm. After finishing the tie, Maya Hansen hurried back a few steps. She is indeed a little scared. In case Lin Yu goes crazy with pain, getting too close to him may hurt himself. At the moment, Killian hasn't spoken all the time. There is no movement. He is like a cheetah waiting for an opportunity, quietly squatting on the ground. When I saw Maya Hansen stick the Extremis needle into Lin Yu's arm, his mood became more and more excited. However, what he concealed was getting better and better. Finally, until all Extremis was injected, all the depression of Killian finally broke out. He covered his arm with one hand, and then laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha. Killian at the moment is like a lunatic. His eyes were covered with bloodshot eyes, and almost his entire eyes were dyed red. Killian is not afraid of anything now. Everyone in the room was attracted by Killian, who was laughing wildly. What are you laughing at? Sharon raised the hammer in his hand, frowning slightly. Killian's expression is wrong. Killian at the moment obviously has no capital to resist. Then why did he suddenly laugh? Moreover, it was when Lin Yu just injected Extremis into his body. At the moment, upon hearing Sharon's words, Killian finally stopped laughing. He glanced around, looked at Lin Yu, who still had a needle in his arm, then looked at Wanda and Sharon, and finally looked at Maya Hansen. You probably don't know one thing. This Extremis, in fact, Maya Hansen only played a supporting role. It is not her who really understands Extremis and is responsible for research and development, but me. Extremis has a very serious flaw. Maya Hansen doesn't know it. She thought it was just that the success rate was very low, but it wasn't. The success rate of the first injection of Extremis is very high. After 24 hours, it will integrate successfully. During these 24 hours, you will not want to live or even commit suicide. Definitely, the biggest flaw is that after the Extremis injection, you have to re-inject it every 10 to 15 days, and you have to inject it forever for the rest of your life. Listening to Killian's words, whether it was Maya Hansen, Wanda and Sharon, their faces became more and more ugly. Maya Hansen did not expect Killian to lie to her all the time. Sharon and Wanda are worried about Lin Yu. If it's like Killian, it would be bad. At this moment, Killian suddenly looked at Lin Yu, with a weird smile on his face, and said, definitely, there is another good news, that is, I can help you continue to make more Extremis, but the only condition is that you must obey my arrangements. Otherwise, you will fend for yourself. Even if you ask someone who is more capable to help you research, even if you have the help of Maya Hansen, it will be impossible to develop successfully in less than a year or a half. Except for me, no one can help you survive. Ha ha ha. Killian laughed wildly again. At this time, he felt that he had completely eaten this young man. Lin Yu's reckless injection of Extremis is like a big pie from the sky for Killian. A great opportunity to turn him over. Ha ha ha. But, with a smile, he suddenly felt something was wrong. It seems that the whole laboratory is talking by himself. Other people, why are they so quiet? Shouldn't they panic, fear, or even pray to themselves? What's the situation? Killian looked at the two women, Wanda and Sharon, but found that their faces didn't even have the same worried look just now. Why shouldn't they worry about that man? Isn't the relationship between them very good? When Gang Yu raised his pistol, they even stood in front of the man. It shouldn't be so peaceful now. Immediately afterwards, Killian seemed to notice something. He turned his head and looked in Lin Yu's direction again. Suddenly stunned, Lin Yu had already pulled out the needle by himself. Like a okay person, she looked at herself quietly. There was no change in his body. I can't even see that Extremis has been injected. There is no trace of pain. There was even a slight smile on his face. What's going on? Doesn't it take 24 hours to completely integrate? Isn't he going to be in constant pain during these 24 hours? He should be hot now, and his whole body cells are constantly tearing and regenerating. But why does he look the same as before, with no change at all? Killian really didn't believe in the scene before him. For Extremis, there is absolutely no second person in this world who knows more than himself. This is something I developed myself. Impossible. He couldn't have changed at all. Could it be that he lied to himself just now? Just injected a bottle of glucose. Just to lie to yourself and tell the truth. In Killian's heart, a lot of thoughts flashed in an instant. But, at this moment, Lin Yu suddenly smiled strangely. In front of Killian, Lin Yu raised one of his hands, and that hand instantly turned into the color of magma. High temperature, strong, fear. Killian was completely limp to the ground. All his thoughts were all shattered. In front of this man, he was like a jumping beam joker. No matter how you call it, it's just my own wishful thinking. He even successfully integrated Extremis. Moreover, it only took less than a minute. No, even shorter. Killian's worldview collapsed. All along, the scientific viewpoints that we insisted on have also completely become illusions. At this moment, Lin Yu suddenly turned his head and whispered to Maya Hansen, a kind reminder, I suggest you leave Killian early, otherwise you will regret it. Finish this sentence. I didn't care about Maya Hansen's reaction. Lin Yu strode out. Wanda and Sharon also hurriedly followed. Seeing Lin Yu now, they were completely relieved. Although just now, the words Killian said made them really worried. But the smile that Lin Yu kept on his face made them feel relieved. Compared to Killian, who is like a lunatic, they are more willing to believe in Lin Yu. Therefore, they seemed more calm just now. But at this moment, when the three came to the warehouse door, Lin Yu suddenly turned around and looked into the laboratory. Lin Yu's mouth curled slightly, and then he said, "Oh, forgot one thing, Tony asked me to say hello to you." After saying this, Lin Yu Xiaoju turned around and disappeared into the night with the two women. Camaro broke out again with a fierce roar. Lopsided. And at the moment, in the laboratory, after Killian heard Lin Yu's words, it seemed that Killian had lost his courage to live, and his eyes lit up in an instant. In that gleam of light, there is not only the desire to survive, and the flames of vengeance. Original. This man was sent by Tony. Original. Tony Stark always knew that he was watching him lurking in the dark. Killian slowly got up from the ground. Then, walked to the safe with the door open. I took out another bottle of awakening potion. That person actually left the remaining 2 bottles of awakening medicine to himself. In Killian's heart, hope ignited again. Tony Stark. You wait for me to know. Inside the Bumblebee, Lin Yu is about to be tortured crazy. The two women kept chatting. Lin Yu can only be patient and explain one by one. What is called Extremis? What are the benefits of injection? Why is this happening? Will it die after being chopped? What is the effect of being shot? Can it grow out if the head is off? With all the mess, Lin Yu's head is about to explode. Fortunately, the speed of the Hornet is very fast. Soon the 3 of them came to the grocery store. At the moment, Erha hurriedly got out of the dog hole under the gate. Fawning rubbed against Lin Yu's leg. Lin Yu suddenly squatted down and touched Erha's head affectionately. He now finally feels that Erha seems to be the best. Only Erha, there are not so many things, roar will come and go, and if you feel uncomfortable, you can kick your feet to relieve your breath. Much better than those 2 women. Erha had never received such preferential treatment, and hurriedly lay on the ground, enjoying the comfort of the owner. For a time, the atmosphere was extremely harmonious. But now, Lin Yu hasn't realized what kind of impact it will have on life after he is injected with Extremis. Until Wanda took a kitchen knife and walked out of the kitchen. And to cut off one of Lin Yu's arm to see if it can grow out again. Lin Yu finally realized that something was wrong. Even more terrifying is Sharon, who was originally very sensible, did not dissuade Wanda this time. Instead, he hugged his chest and quietly became a melon-eating crowd. Lin Yu suddenly wanted to cry without tears. What happened to this grocery store? Is it true that their brains affected by this weird grocery store are not normal? Or was it influenced by yourself? Wanda chased Lin Yu 2 streets. Lin Yu was finally softened. Definitely, Lin Yu also wants to try his current ability. This is a great help for yourself to understand your body. But, Wanda, who is indeed holding a kitchen knife, is scary. At Lin Yu's request, Lin Yu chose to do it himself. And just cut off a bit of flesh on the thumb of the hand. Really, the wound healed quickly, not even the slightest scar is left. Lin Yu is extremely satisfied with this effect. And it's not just recovery. Ability has improved. Lin Yu's strength and physical fitness have improved a lot. Lin Yu now estimates that his physical strength should be similar to the United States Captain Steve. As for recovery, Steve is not an opponent at all. Definitely, this is just a comparison of pure physical conditions. If you really fight without relying on the system, Lin Yu is definitely not Steve's opponent. After all, people fight professionally. And Lin Yu is just a grocery store owner. But, Lin Yu never wanted to CDAH to improve his combat ability. Those are all floating clouds, all upside down the cart before the horse. The system is my biggest support. Extremis also only improved some of its life-saving abilities to prevent accidental injuries in case the system did not have time to react. If Lin Yu got the ability provided by Extremis, he stopped being low-key. That is basically impossible. The character is basically set long ago. Lin Yu's days have returned to calm again. Lin Yu still plays games every day, goes to bed early and wakes up late, and the days are happy and happy again. Wanda is still working on her money-making plan. Many customers visit Lin Yu's shop every day. Wanda's sales are still very useful. And Sharon has become more and more integrated into the small group of Lin Yu and Wanda. Become an indispensable member of the grocery store. But, just when life was on the right track again in the grocery store, S.H.I.E.L.D. has not been very peaceful recently. Especially the supervisory unit of S.H.I.E.L.D., the World Security Council. The newly appointed Minister Pierce seems to have a good relationship with S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Nick Fury. This caused dissatisfaction among several members of the World Security Council. Originally, the duty of the World Security Council was to supervise S.H.I.E.L.D. However, the top leaders of the two departments have a very good personal relationship. How can this be supervised? As a result, Pierce has been very busy recently. Even when I was invited to Lin Yu's grocery store, I didn't spare any time. Definitely, the reason Pierce has been busy these days is not the only reason. There is one more thing. That is, after the Battle of New York, S.H.I.E.L.D. Director Nick Fury led an operation called Project Insight. The plan is huge. With the help of Tony Stark, S.H.I.E.L.D. will build 3 space carriers and rise to the sky. And through a special algorithm, people who threaten the safety of the Earth are strangled in the cradle. This Insight plan was rejected by the entire World Security Council. But, Pierce has always supported Nick Fury. Several members of the World Security Council thought that Pierce supported him because of his relationship with Nick Fury. They didn't expect that Pierce's true identity was actually the leader of Hydra. The Insight plan has long been secretly turned into a weapon for them to dominate the world by Hydra. And, it's not just Pierce. The entire S.H.I.E.L.D. is almost completely controlled by Hydra. New York City. In a secret underground base. Pierce's figure suddenly appeared in this extremely secret place. This is actually a secret stronghold of Hydra. Under normal circumstances, a guy in a high position like Pierce won't come here easily. But, he seems to have something special today. And, not only Pierce, but many core members of Hydra have also arrived here. They will hold a secret meeting here tonight. No one knew the content of the meeting before it started, only Pierce knew it. After a few minutes, wearing a black suit, he walked through the simple and easy Pierce and walked into this underground secret base. Pushing open the door of the conference room, several people in at the moment are already sitting at the conference table. At this moment, seeing Pierce come in, there was a hint of shock in everyone's eyes. They actually don't know who the top leader of their organization is. These people did not expect that the leader of their organization would have become the minister of the World Security Council. Bit high weight. Hydra's organization is extremely tight. Even among Hydra members, they rarely know the identity of their teammates. This is also an important reason why Hydra can exist so far. Definitely. Except Pierce. When the other members met just now, they were all shocked to each other. Almost most of the people present were in S.H.I.E.L.D. And most of them are officials above the middle level. In normal times, it would be impossible for them to know that colleagues who have been with each other for months or even years are working for Hydra. But today, it is really because some facts are too important that Pierce made the decision to meet a few core members. This meeting determines the future of Hydra. Because the Insight plan is actually not as simple as Nick Fury imagined. If 3 space carriers are really raised to the sky, then it will become Hydra's most powerful weapon. At that time, no one on the entire planet will be able to stop Hydra. This is the battle to determine the fate of Hydra. The meeting began. The biggest issue is to discuss how to implement the next Insight plan perfectly. This requires the concerted efforts of all members. In addition to this most important question. And one more thing. That is, how to weaken the power of S.H.I.E.L.D. as much as possible. No matter what method is used, all those who can block the Insight plan must be dealt with. For example, Nick Fury's most trusted captain of the United States, Steve, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, Hawkeye Barton and so on. Definitely. Also recently Nick Fury has relied on the most, and is also the guy who mentioned the most in front of Pierce. A little consultant, Lin Yu. This guy named Lin Yu should be the person Nick Fury relies on most now. His ability, even Nick Fury, seems a little scared, but Nick Fury can't tell what ability is. This kind of variable must be completely eliminated before the Insight plan starts. Enable the Winter Soldier, and kill him at all costs. Pierce ordered coldly. The entire Hydra is fully operational. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.